Ladies and gents, boys and girls, what is going on? Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in as we begin yet another week, and we're another day closer to kickoff. Appreciate you guys. Let's see. I see Travi, Justin Langford, my brother, Brendan, the crowded booth. Yes, Bryce, appreciate you, my friend. We had a fantastic conversation. Y'all be sure to check it out. He says coming out this afternoon right after the conclusion of his live show. Had a great time. Yeah, Bryce of the crowded booth. We had a great combo talking all things, guys. Gamecocks football heading into the 2023 season. Be sure to check it out. John Edwards in here, Will Luttrell, Ethan Will Hall. What's up? Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Also those in the Big Cock Club Discord. Thank you guys so much for your continued love and support. Let's see. I think Discord shut down on my Mac for some reason, so I'm not seeing the Big Cock Club Discord. Let me get this pulled up here. Either way, guys, thank you all so much. A really, really exciting week. Got a lot to get into. We are beginning the 2023 season preview series. Today's show, we begin talking about the Gamecocks offense. On Wednesday, we'll talk defense. Friday, we will talk special teams. So really excited for that, guys. Hey, what's up, Slapdick? Brendan M. in the Big Cock Club Discord. GA said he was waiting around 11:28 for the show. Hey, we were talking to the crowded booth. My guy, Bryce, GA. You'll hear that combo again later today. It is a busy, and I mean a busy day for yours truly, but an exciting day, no doubt, as content continues to bleed out of the eyeballs. Again, we spoke with my friend Bryce of the crowded booth this morning. That convo set to drop this afternoon, and of course, we'll be sharing that across all of our social media channels. We have our show today, which I'll get into in just a second. 310, yours truly, going on radio, 107.5 The Game. The first time I have ever been on 107.5 The Game. The first time I've ever been invited on 107.5 The Game. My guy, Dimitri Romanos, is hosting the show. I think he's filling in for Heath Klein today. Either way, yours truly will be on 107.5 The Game around 3:10, 3:15 or so, talking all things Gamecocks football, my prediction, etc. And of course, it's Monday. We've got radio with our good friend Mark Ryan over at the Fan Upstate at 4:40. Also, what just hit my inbox was the itinerary, the full itinerary for SEC Media Days. As 1 week from today, yours truly will be in Nashville at SEC Media Days. And guys, let me say this. You all always roll with the punches. I'm asking you to do so next week yet again. Because looking at this itinerary, we're going to be busy from morning, from morning until night. There are events in the afternoon, 6:30 to 8:30, and these are Central Time, by the way, 6:30 to 8:30 on Monday, 5 to 9 on Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30 on Wednesday, and then, of course, Thursday, things end at 1 o'clock. But it's going to be a busy week. It's going to be a crazy week. We might be going live. There's a good chance we're going to be going live late, like 9 p.m. Central, maybe even 10 p.m. Central, something like that. So they're going to be late TDCs. They're going to be late shows. I apologize for that. But, I mean, guys, obviously you understand what the heck is going on. It's going to be a fantastic week. So much fun. Cannot wait to get into it. Again, guys, thank you all so much for your continued love and support. A fantastic weekend for us over here on this side of things. Also, this week, really excited, guys. Thursday, the relaunch of TSUS.store will take place. I've been teasing or advertising certain things we are doing. The enhancements from the outside tags on all of our t-shirts, hoodies, etc., to the mailers that we'll be sending with every single order, to the new packaging. Today, I'm going to advertise, hey, we're going to include a sticker, a TSUS sticker with every single purchase, absolutely free. Everything coming your way Thursday. I want to say thank you to my good friend Adam over at Fresh Threads Printing for being a legend and putting all this together, revamping the entire online store. The focus of this, guys, a lot of you have asked, are there new products? What are you dropping? It's not even really essentially a focus on new products. We will have new products dropping as we get closer to football season. We've got these beat shirts in line, for example, that I think you guys are going to absolutely love. But more so what this revamping of the store excuse me, sorry about that. What it comes down to is enhancing the customer experience and taking care of our people that support tsus.store, that support the merchandise side of the business so much, and taking care of each and every single one of you. So really excited for that Thursday. That will drop tsus.store. Our revamped store will be live. Guys, in the meantime, like I said, today we begin the 2023 season preview series. Of course, today's show, guys, hour number 3, we're taking your questions, comments, calls. I want to hear from you, 843-790-3377. Hour number 2, we've got my good friend Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. He will join us as he does each and every single Monday. And again, guys, of course, today we begin the 2023 season preview series as we're talking the Gamecocks offense heading into 2023 football season. And before we dive into really the nitty-gritty, guys, I want to give you all guys that kind of an idea. Who is your offense in this 2023 season? Let's get to know the Gamecocks offense just a little bit as we talk key departures, key returners, and new additions for Dowell Loggins and Shane Beamer. Before we do, though, guys, I want to brush you up a little bit and give you a quick reminder of what South Carolina did in 2022. The Gamecocks a season ago offensively averaged 32.2 points per game. That was 9th in the SEC and tied 38th nationally. Now, that number kind of surprised me. But I think what you have to understand is this. That is points per game. That's not purely offensive points per game. It's not factoring in defense and special teams. So 32.2 points per game might feel a touch high, but then you also have to factor in, guys, the final 3 games of the 2022 season, South Carolina averaged around 44 points per game in that 3-game stretch of Tennessee, Clemson, and Notre Dame. The Gamecocks in 2022 averaged 260 yards per game passing, 6th in the SEC and 40th nationally. The running game is where South Carolina struggled, as we all know, 118.8 yards per game rushing, 12th in the SEC and 105th nationally. We will spend a lot of time talking about that, the running game or lack thereof, and the questions around it going into this season. The Gamecocks in total, 378.8 yards per game, 9th in the SEC, 71st nationally. And as we all know, as we dive into our key departures, key returners, new additions, we'll start with our key departures from last year. Those numbers effectively led to the departure, the termination, however you want to phrase it, of former Gamecocks offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. You also lose running back Marshawn Lloyd, which I know a lot of people say, Chris, he was made of glass. He was overrated. Bottom line is this. He was an RB1 caliber player in the SEC. You lose him to the transfer portal. He is now at the other USC in Los Angeles, California. Tight end Jaheim Bell is a key departure. Same thing with Bell. People are going to sit here and say he's overrated, whatever. I'm not trying to defend Jaheim Bell. Guys, I'm not a Jaheim Bell sympathizer. But this time last year, people were touting Jaheim Bell as one of the best playmakers in the SEC. And I'm talking specifically Gamecock fans. So that is a key departure for this offense. Headed now, he is at Florida State. Tight end Austin Stogner back in Norman, Oklahoma. You also lose 3 starters from your offensive line. Offensive lineman Eric Douglas, offensive lineman Dylan Wanham, and offensive lineman Joe Von Gwynn. Three players that, especially Douglas, played really, really good football for you. Anytime you lose your center, guys, that is a really big deal. Wanham and Gwynn were really solid players. Gwynn was an all-SEC caliber player, so you got some holes to plug on that O-line. You lose wide receiver Josh Vann, which, it's unfortunate Vann last year suffering the injury. I don't know that he really had the season. And, of course, the emergence of Juice Wells, I don't know that he really had the season that we were all expecting. But Josh Vann is certainly a key departure when you think about what he did during his time at South Carolina. 18 catches, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns for the Gamecocks a season ago. By the way, going back to Marshawn Lloyd, 111 carries, 573 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, and 9 touchdowns. Jaheim Bell had 73 carries for 261, 3.6 yards per carry, and 3 touchdowns. So you lose both of those players. Over 800 yards rushing and 12 rushing touchdowns gone from a year ago just between those two guys. You also lose tight end Nate Atkins, who really came on late in the season. And guys, you could argue he was the hero of the Tennessee and the Clemson game. And, when he went out against Notre Dame, that changed the game for South Carolina. Running back Christian Bill Smith is also a departure, and wide receiver Jalen Brooks, who was a nice supporting cast piece on the outside. You then look at key returners. So who is back for South Carolina from last season? You got to start, of course, with the most important position on the field, your quarterback, Spencer Rattler. He returns after last year. The stats for Rattler, guys, 264 completions out of 399 pass attempts, 18 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. He threw for 3,026 yards. More on Rattler later in the show. But, of course, anytime you have your quarterback back, that is a huge boost for you. The key returner, his top target, Juice Wells. And you look at the numbers, guys, 68 catches, 928 yards, 13.6 yards per catch, and 6 touchdowns a season ago. He averaged 71.4 yards per game, and I think most people are expecting him to improve on those numbers. A guy, guys, that you could realistically argue is the best wide receiver in the SEC. You also get Dakereon Joyner back. Running back, can play wide receiver as well. We dropped our projected starting 11 going into UNC. I think he is most likely the Gamecocks starting running back against North Carolina, guys. So Dakereon Joyner, big time that he chose to return. You then look at Amarian Brown on the outside at wide receiver. Xavier Legette on the outside. One of the big question marks going into this season, guys, is that South Carolina needs to find its wide receiver too, because I mentioned the losses of Van and Brooks, right? Brooks was your second leading receiver, 504 yards and a touchdown. Josh Van, 296 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's over 800 yards of receiving and 4 touchdowns you got to replace. Who is wide receiver 2? The return of Brown, Legette, obviously Xavier Legette, a guy. I feel like he has been talked about a lot this preseason. And for good reason, right? You look at the way he finished the 2022 season. I mean, I think there's real reason to believe that he can take the next step and be that supporting cast piece that you so desperately need to take some of the pressure off of Juice Wells, if you will. So Xavier Legette, certainly going to be interesting to see what type of season he has. On the offensive front, key returners, Jalen Nichols, I listed him. Unfortunately, probably out for the entirety of the season. You do bring back offensive lineman Vershawn Lee, who I project to be your starting center as we go into the season. Offensive lineman Ja'Kai Moore, who was expected to start at one of the tackle positions. You then return running back Juju McDowell from last year's team as well. Scat back, I don't know that he's necessarily RB1. I think he's a player that can be dynamic and help you out in a lot of different ways. Don't think he's RB1, but there certainly is a role for him in the offense. And then finally, guys, my final key returner that I listed, quarterback Luke Doty. And listen, do I expect Luke Doty to take a ton of snaps this year? No, I do not. Ideally, Spencer Rattler has taken pretty much all the snaps at QB1, and the only time we see a guy like Luke Doty is maybe in garbage time, if you will. But anytime you have quarterback depth, guys, that's a positive, right? It's a positive to have that type of quarterback depth. And getting Luke Doty back is certainly a big boost for South Carolina. So you got your solid QB2 there. You got, of course, Spencer Rattler back. Who are the new additions? Let's talk about new additions for South Carolina that can make a big-time impact this year, both from the transfer portal, true freshmen, and the coaching ranks, because the Gamecocks have a new offensive coordinator as Dowell Loggins. The Loggins era begins in Columbia, South Carolina. That, I think, guys, is the most notable new addition of all of these. What does Dowell Loggins do? Is he able to bottle up what South Carolina did in those final 2 weeks of the 2022 season? Keep things simple, let playmakers make plays, scheme around maybe a suspect offensive line, and guide Spencer Rattler to his best season of his collegiate career and guide the Gamecocks offense to one of their best seasons in quite some time. So Dowell Loggins is the big new addition for this South Carolina offense. You then look on the field. Wide receiver Eddie Lewis coming over from Memphis. We saw him in the spring game. Featured a lot. I think this is a guy who could emerge. He could be that number 2 option at wide receiver. It felt like they were really trying to get in the football a lot in the spring game, and I think they feel good about him. I think he's someone that figures in this offense early and often. You then look at the tight end position. How about Trey Knox coming over from Arkansas? That was one of the bigger pickups of the transfer portal cycle. You know, South Carolina, say what you want about how they did in the portal, what they lost, what they gained. Trey Knox, the big-time pickup. Another guy looking for a breakout season in his collegiate career, but he follows Dowell Loggins to Carolina, who was his position coach in Fayetteville. So you feel pretty good, right, that Dowell Loggins will be able to scheme things up for Trey Knox, get him the football early and often. And we all know, guys, Gamecock fans love throwing to the tight end. You then look at Joshua Simon, speaking of the tight end, Western Kentucky transfer that this coaching staff is really high on. You talk to people behind closed doors. Joshua Simon is a guy that certainly can help Gamecocks football this year. You then look at offensive lineman Nick Gargiulo over from Yale, who I think is going to be a starter for you, was a captain on his team. And they only named one captain, by the way, guys. He was a captain on that Yale football team, a veteran-type player. They'll be asking a lot from him early on. How about the running back position? Mario Anderson, the transfer from Newberry, was a fantastic player at Newberry. Go Wolves, by the way. But Mario Anderson, a guy, can he step in? Again, we saw him in the spring game, big body dude, stocky, but he ran for over 3,000 yards for the Wolves. So this is a dude at the collegiate level, knows how to be a productive back. The SEC, a different beast, though, from D2. Is he ready for it? We'll see. Dontavius Braswell, the true freshman, as well. Is he ready to emerge as a youngster, maybe take over that RB1 spot? And then the quarterback position. Lenoris Sellers. What type of impact does Lenoris Sellers make this year? How much does he play? You know, typically we wouldn't be talking about a true freshman quarterback when you got Spencer Rattler back and Luke Doty. But after looking at him in the spring game and seeing his athleticism, and from what we've heard, guys, it sounds like most certainly it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when Lenoris Sellers helps this football team in 2023. And guys, finally, the new addition, I go back to the wide receiver position, Nicholas Harbor. What type of impact can a guy like Nick Harbor make? He wasn't an early enrollee, right? So the big question with Harbor, we know he's a freak athlete. We know what he does with the Olympic stuff, the track stuff. We understand that. How quickly can he grasp the wide receiver position? How quickly can he grasp SEC football, the speed of the game, if you will? How quickly can he grasp the nuances of playing that position? And I think if he can do that rather quickly, I think you're going to see Nicholas Harbor as the season progresses making more and more and more of an impact, because you can only keep a guy like that off the field with that type of size, athleticism, speed, agility. You can only keep a guy like that off the field for so long. So again, guys, that is the South Carolina offense going into the 2023 season. Our key departures, key returners, and new additions. The Gamecocks offense looking to make waves, looking to make noise in the 2023 football season. Guys, we're going to jump into our first break on the side. We're going to keep the conversation rolling here on this Monday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. It is truly a blessing to be able to sit here and talk ball with you guys and do this every single day. And I look forward to each and every single day we get to step behind the microphone, behind the camera, and talk ball. So thank you all so much for making this possible. Your love and support is what makes TSUS what it is and what it is becoming to the moon, as we like to say. Again, thank you all so much, guys. Really quickly, everybody saw the announcement just before we went live. Spencer Rattler, Tonka Hemingway, and Kai Kroger will be heading to SEC Media Days next week, accompanying Shane Beamer in Nashville, Tennessee. Thursday is when the Gamecocks will speak at the event. So going to be a fun week. Going to be a lot of fun for sure following along. And yours truly will be there. We'll see if they allow me to fire off a question. I don't know. Either way, guys, we continue along talking Gamecocks offense. Heading into 2023 football season, what are the top storylines for South Carolina's offense this fall? Let's dive into it. And you have to start new year, new offensive coordinator, a new era of offense begins in Columbia, South Carolina, as Dowell Loggins officially takes over the reins with Marcus Satterfield's departure, firing, however you want to label it, a season ago. What will South Carolina get out of Dowell Loggins? What will the offense look like? Are they able to bottle up what they did in the final 3 games of the 2022 season? That is the hope. That is the expectation for South Carolina moving forward. Now, admittedly, as you all know, I have not been so subtle about it that I have my questions about Dowell Loggins. We all recall back in mid to late December when the offensive coordinator search was going down. And, you know, I tell you guys, I knew that coaching searches moved the needle in college football. I mean, I recall when South Carolina was looking for the next head coach, and it felt like every single piece of content was going crazy, and every single day on social media was the Wild Wild West. But the offensive coordinator search for South Carolina in this cycle was so fascinating because I think folks understand the importance of this hire and why this hire needs to work for Shane Beamer and South Carolina football. I mean, guys, you think about how long it's been since South Carolina has been, I would say, even average to slightly above average on the offensive side of the football. It has been since the Steve Spurrier days. And for 2 years, Gamecock fans sat through the maddening play calling of Marcus Satterfield. I mean, he earned the nickname Swing Pass Sat for a reason. I think it was a stat I saw. South Carolina led all of college football in passes thrown behind the line of scrimmage. Gamecock fans, we were not over-exaggerating when we talked about how porous the offense was a season ago and how maddening and frustrating it was to watch. Now comes Dowell Loggins. And again, I was vocal about this hire when it took place, and I will continue to be so. By all accounts, by all indications, Shane Beamer got his guy. That's great. That does not eliminate the question marks around this hire. Dowell Loggins, a man who has spent most of his time coaching in the NFL. He was once named one of the worst offensive coordinators, or the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL. He has never called a play, not just at the SEC level, not just at the Power 5 level. He's never called a play at the collegiate level. He did spend 2 years at Arkansas under Kendall Briles learning that system. So there was a lot of uncertainty and a lot of question marks around this Dowell Loggins hire, and you really can't argue otherwise. Now, there are reasons to believe that Dowell Loggins will be a massive success, that it will more so even just be addition simply by subtraction, because, guys, even the most skeptical, even someone like me who has real question marks and concerns, I say to myself, there's no way that Dowell Loggins can be worse than what Marcus Satterfield was a season ago. There's no way that Dowell Loggins can handcuff this offense the way that Marcus Satterfield did a season ago. So, just what does it look like? Because here's the thing, guys. I don't think South Carolina is reinventing the wheel offensively. They're not going from the triple option to the air raid, right? This isn't some complete offensive overhaul. It is very clear and very evident. South Carolina wants to do what they did in the last 2 weeks of last season, which by all accounts was simplified. They went from around 21 or 22 personnel packages to around 6 or 7. They made things much easier on Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells, that offensive line, that entire offense to just simply go out and make plays. Because in the first 10 games, it looked like a group of guys who were thinking, who were processing. We all saw the check with me looking over to the sideline, which, again, was just so frustrating to watch. That is now gone. And Shane Beamer and Dowell Loggins said all of the right things in the press conference, his introductory press conference, when he was brought on as OC. We're going to simplify. We're going to get the ball in the hands of our playmakers. We're going to let them make plays. We're going to get out of their way. We're going to make it as easy as possible. Dowell Loggins addressed every concern that we hoped he would address. Every box was checked. But what do we get on the field? What does it look like? Does it look like the final 2 games of last year? There's going to be some wrinkles from Dowell Loggins. There's going to be some wrinkles that Beamer and staff had. But the fact of the matter is this. No matter whether you're optimistic on Dowell Loggins or you're pessimistic on Dowell Loggins or you fall somewhere in the middle, the fact of the matter is this. It is a question mark. And it is something that we are really intrigued to see, and certainly one of the top storylines for the Gamecocks offense heading into the 2023 football season. Another big storyline, guys, you move to the quarterback position. And anytime you have your starting quarterback back, I mean, we talked about this last year. Anytime you have a quarterback of the caliber of Spencer Rattler, you have a chance. The question I have, guys, is simply this, and we will dive more in depth, by the way, guys, when we get into our position unit preview series in about a month or so. This is more of your high-level overview of the offense, defense, special teams, etc. So when talking on Spencer Rattler, the question is this. Can he show more consistency in 2023? Because we talked about it this morning, guys, with the Crowded Booth podcast. The upside and the ceiling, I should say, for Spencer Rattler, I mean, it's uncapped, guys. Spencer Rattler, at his best, is one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. So it's not about ability. It's not about talent. It truly comes down to consistency and raising his floor. While I put most of the blame last season on Marcus Satterfield and the porous offensive scheme and offensive system, Spencer Rattler did not help his case a lot of times. And we've seen it, even in the Clemson game. I think the Clemson game last season best exemplifies who and what Spencer Rattler is at the quarterback position. He is a gunslinger, and he is a guy, to get all of the good he brings, you've got to live with the bad. And you've got to accept that at times, the bad is going to cost you. For Spencer Rattler, it all comes down to limiting the bad. You can't throw an interception in the red zone. You can't do it. You can't throw a pick six. You can't fumble the football. We're going to get into turnovers in a bit. But as you and I both know, Spencer Rattler was wildly inconsistent a season ago. Which Spencer Rattler do you get? Which Spencer Rattler does South Carolina see more of? Is it the Spencer Rattler from the first 10 games who was abysmal? Or is it the Rattler from the final 3 who was one of the hottest quarterbacks in college football? Another big storyline, guys. One of the top targets, the top target for Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells, returning as arguably the SEC's top receiver. What type of impact does Juice Wells have on this offense? Because, guys, I think it's going to be felt to an even greater degree than last year because, you know, this time last year it was like, okay, we got this guy from James Madison. What's the impact going to be? He's going from FCS to the SEC. Josh Van's still the number one guy. You have Jalen Brooks. You have Dak Joyner. You have Amarian Brown, Leggett, what have you. What type of impact will Juice Wells have? We'll see. Well, now there is no secret. Juice Wells is the dude. And he is, again, arguably, for my money, the best wide receiver, returning wide receiver in the SEC. So, start to finish, can Juice Wells, can he be the guy that we saw him be in the final 2 weeks of the regular season? He is going to be a matchup nightmare for opposing defenses. He will have an opportunity to start out hot against UNC and a UNC secondary that was not very good last year. Anytime you get a guy like Juice Wells back in your offense, you've got to feel good, guys. We talked about it way back in January when Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells announced their return, why that was such an impactful decision to get both of those guys back. And, guys, I've talked about my top 10 Gamecocks going into the season. Juice Wells, for me, is number one. He is that good of a football player. Does he eclipse the 1,000-yard mark? Does he go even further than that? Does he continue to solidify himself as one of, if not the best, wide receiver in the SEC? Now, the big storyline, guys, going into kickoff for the Gamecocks offense, the running back room. How does the running back room shake out? We dropped our projected offense starting 11, if you will, this morning. I have Dakereon Joyner starting game 1 against North Carolina. And it's interesting to see the mixed reviews, mixed replies on that, by the way. Some people are like, yeah, that's awesome. Dak's the man. Other people are like, wow, running back is in a bad spot. What comes of it? I mean, just simply put, guys, what comes of the running back room? Who steps up? You've got Juju McDowell back. Dakereon Joyner slides over. You got Mario Anderson, a Division II transfer, and you got Dontavius Braswell, a true freshman. I mean, outside of that, you've got Nathan Harris-Waynick, who's a walk-on. DJ Twitty, right? I'm forgetting some names here. DJ Twitty, I believe, from East Tennessee State. Turbo Miller from Columbia, if you will. Can they make some sort of impact? But I think the 4 guys you should be focusing on are Dak Joyner, Juju McDowell, Dontavius Braswell, and Mario Anderson. Simply put, guys, the Gamecocks did not pick up the game-changing ball carrier we thought they would in the transfer portal. They didn't pick up that proven Power 5 guy. They didn't get him. And so now you've got to find a way to get production out of this running back room. Who is it, though? Is it by committee? Do we see them just split up carries all season? And there is no true RB1. Does a guy like Dakereon Joyner, does he emerge? Does Mario Anderson, coming from D2, rushing for over 3,000 yards, does he fill in and turn into a surprise? I don't think Juju McDowell's quite cut out for the RB1 role, but can be a really nice player there for you. Or Dontavius Braswell, a 4-star player out of the state of Georgia, can he come in and as a true freshman carry the load? Just what happens in the running back room, guys? I mean, that's it. The big question, top story, it's just running back. There are so many questions. There's not a position group on this football team that has more question marks than the Gamecocks running backs. Who steps up? Is there a SEC caliber RB1 in that room, or do you have to find a way to get production from a bunch of RB2s and RB3s and just sort of makeshift your way through the season, riding the hot hand when you can find one? Another big storyline, guys. Hey, if you're going to have a productive running game or a productive offense in general, you're going to have an offensive line to pave the way. What do you make of the offensive line? 2 starters returned from last year. Jalen Nichols probably out for the year. Vershawn Lee, one of your few starters, is back. I mean, guys, outside of that, it is a makeshift group, no doubt, with a lot of question marks, okay? You add in Nick Gargiulo from the transfer portal at Yale. You added Sidney Fugar from Western Illinois. You added Jackson Hughes from Charlotte. You added the kid from Mercer, whose name slips me right now. What does the offensive line give you? Because, guys, again, we'll talk about this a lot more when we get into our position unit preview series. But you returned 50 less starts than you had a season ago. And, guys, that was from an offensive line that was outside of the top 100 in rushing offense. Does new blood equate to improvement up front? Also, you had some drama with your offensive line coach last year. Greg Atkins battling some off-the-field health issues. Lonnie Teasley stepped in. And, guys, I thought they did a really good job with what they had. I thought they did a pretty solid job. The offensive line got better down the stretch. It wasn't a reason that South Carolina was losing football games. You're recruiting really, really well on the offensive line right now, guys. I'd say better than you ever have. The problem is those guys are either first year on campus and aren't ready to play, or they're commitments and they're not in Columbia yet. What are you able to get out of that starting five? And then depth. I mean, I think there are depth concerns up front, no doubt. Does new blood equate to an improved offensive line? Or does South Carolina struggle to get any sort of run push and protect Spencer Rattler once again? Guys, in the big storyline, and I don't know how long how we've gone this long, I should say, without talking about South Carolina's tight end room. Going the 2023 football season, there was no position group that was flipped more, I think, in the offseason than the tight ends, because you lost Jaheim Bell, you lost Nate Atkins, you lost Trey Kenyon of retirement. I mean, you lost everybody, right? Shane Beamer and company said, wait, watch this. Trey Knox from Arkansas comes in. Joshua Simon from Western Kentucky. You got the Elskinis kid from, I believe, Florida. That was the transfer. McKeeska comes in. I believe he's actually Florida. Elskinis was the freshman. There's so many of them I can't even keep up. But you have completely revamped the tight end position. And I think a lot of us, especially after the spring game, you watch what Trey Knox did. I know he's a guy that, sort of a mixed bag at Arkansas, but I think Trey Knox is primed to have the best season of his collegiate career, a guy who has not caught a touchdown pass against a Power 5 opponent since October of 2021. Joshua Simon's also a guy that, you're not going to hear a lot about from the SEC talking heads, from national talking heads, but that is someone they're really high on as well. He was a really productive player for the Hilltoppers at WKU. How much of a factor is the tight end position this year? I think South Carolina, is there a chance they get even more out of the tight end position this year? Because people think about, okay, Stogner's gone, Bell's gone, Atkins gone. I think there's a chance the tight end position could be even more productive and be even better this season for South Carolina. Another big storyline, guys, is the youngsters and what kind of impact can youngsters like Nicholas Harbor, Lenoris Sellers, Dontavius Braswell, et cetera, what type of impact can they make this season? Guys, a lot of success, a lot of South Carolina's success this season, and we're going to talk about this with defense too, but a lot of the success hinges on young players. And there's some young guys that need to step up. It's funny, we were talking about this in the Big Cock Club Discord a couple of days ago. You look back at the Steve Spurrier era, and when things started to really click in 09, 10, 11, you know what was a trait on those teams? You had young guys stepping up and making big-time impacts. I mean, think about 2009, guys. Stephon Gilmore was a true freshman. Alshon Jeffrey was a true freshman. 2010, Marcus Lattimore was a true freshman. 2011, Jadeveon Clowney was a true freshman. Amongst others, by the way. Those are just the headliners. So I think for South Carolina in year 3, if they're going to hit that 8 or 9 win mark, you're going to have some of these young guys step up and be impact players for you. Nicholas Harbor's a guy, guys, we all know about the recruiting profile and what he means to South Carolina. Getting him to sign was a huge victory for the Gamecocks back in February. How quickly can he come along at the wide receiver position? Lenoris Sellers, like I mentioned at quarterback, you've got your QB1, but from what it sounds like, there are certainly going to be packages for the youngster from Florence. And then Dontavius Braswell, guys, at the running back position, as I just talked about. You know what would help this running back position? A guy like Dontavius Braswell, a 4-star signee, a guy like him coming in and emerging and just simply being that dude. You're asking a lot, but hey, freshmen are not built like freshmen of old anymore. It's all about guys coming in, plug and play. They're immediately helping their football teams. That can be the case here as well. Nick Harbor, Lenoris Sellers, Dontavius Braswell. That's just a couple, too. Bakari Swain's another. Kylik Horton's another. There are other guys, hey, on the offensive front as well. Marquis Anderson, a guy on the offensive line that I would expect to play this year. A lot of young guys. South Carolina's leaning on how much of an impact can they make, because I think it could go a long way in impacting South Carolina's season. And guys, finally, my top storyline, one of the top storylines, but it's arguably the top storyline, because when you look at last year, And what made South Carolina successful and not successful? And Shane Beamer has talked about this on a number of occasions. Protecting the football and not turning the football over. South Carolina turned it over far too much a season ago. How much, you might ask? Guys, the Gamecocks led the SEC in turnovers last season. 25 turnovers, 12 interceptions, 13 fumbles. So a lot of it was on Spencer Rattler for sure. A lot of it was on Spencer Rattler. But a lot of it was on the entire football team, the entire offense. Could not protect the football. We all recall last year when, goodness gracious, Marcus Satterfield said that we got to pray to the turnover gods, which, I mean, that just was another Satterfield-ism that took place in the Tuesday press, or the Wednesday press conferences, which I don't know that we've ever seen OC and DC press conferences followed as closely as they were last year because of what was going on the field. Either way, you're not going to completely eliminate turnovers. They're part of football. Can you cut them in a third? Can you cut them, decrease them by a third? Can you cut them in half? Can you do that? Because turnovers and turnover margin, they cost South Carolina last year. They cost them dearly. And they will continue to cost you and cost you even more if you can't get that fixed. It doesn't matter what you have at quarterback, what you have at receiver, what you have at tight end. It doesn't matter how good your O-line is. If you can't protect the football, guys, you don't have a chance. If you can't protect the football, you don't have a chance. South Carolina was the worst in the SEC. They ranked almost 100th in turnover margin last year. And if it wasn't for an opportunistic defense and great special teams, who knows what the season may have looked like. But cutting down on turnovers, 25 last year, led the SEC, 12 picks, 13 fumbles. That's got to get fixed going in the 2023 football season. Guys, we're going to jump into another quick break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you and keep the convo rolling here on this Monday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. That's your Dougie ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I feel like we are rolling here on this Monday, man. Time flies when you're having fun. That's exactly what's happening here on this Monday. Again, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Our Q&A Power Hour is upcoming. I want to hear from you. I'm sure you guys have plenty of thoughts on the Gamecocks offense, Gamecocks football as a whole. Also, the MLB draft is happening right now. So if you cannot call in that third hour, guys, hit us up at 843-790-3377. Leave us your voicemail, and we will play it in the third hour. In the meantime, leave us your questions, your comments on YouTube. You can also text that number as well. We're going to have a lot of fun on today's show. And again, in the meantime, guys, we're going to keep the conversation rolling as we continue to talk Gamecocks offense heading in the 2023 football season. And for those of you who have tuned in before to the season preview series, right, you know that I like to pose these, I wouldn't call them hypotheticals, but we talk about here's why South Carolina's blank, whether it be offense, defense, special teams, what have you, here's why they could be better. Here are real reasons why they could be better. I also pose, here are real reasons why they could be worse. Take a step back, if you will. Because as I've told you guys before, there are three different ways to look at these things. The Garnet Glasses optimistic view, the chicken curse pessimistic view, and then there's the middle, the realistic view, which is where I try to stay. But I'm going to give you 5 reasons right now why I think the Gamecocks offense could realistically be better in this upcoming season. So for some of you thinking, where's the positivity? Here we go. I'm going to inject some positivity into your life, but unfortunately for you all, we're going to start tomorrow's show with why I think the Gamecocks offense could be worse in 2023. So brace yourselves. Either way, though, that's for tomorrow. Right now, we're talking 5 reasons. My top 5 reasons why I feel like the Gamecocks offense could be better and take a step forward in this upcoming season. Starting with number 1. Spencer Rattler cuts down on the turnovers and shows more consistency than he did in the 2022 football season. We just talked about this in the last segment. South Carolina, the worst in the SEC at turning the football over a season ago. 25 of them, 12 interceptions and 13 fumbles. How much of that do you put on the scheme and the system? How much of that responsibility should fall on Spencer Rattler? If Spencer Rattler is able to, let's just say, cut the turnovers in half. Again, guys, it's not about Spencer Rattler, raising his ceiling, because at his best, he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. If Spencer Rattler is able to show more consistency, be more like the player we saw in the final 2 weeks of the 2022 regular season, heck, even in the bowl game against Notre Dame. If you're able to get that version of Spencer Rattler on a more consistent basis, limit the turnovers, the explosive plays obviously still being there, but just flat out being more consistent, South Carolina's offense is going to take a major step forward. Because again, at his best, South Carolina has a quarterback capable of beating anyone. Anyone. Yes, I'm talking about Georgia. I'm talking about Tennessee. I'm talking about Clemson. As we saw last year, guys, when he's at his best, there's not a team in college football that would have beaten South Carolina that night they beat Tennessee. There's not a team that would have beaten Spencer Rattler that night the Gamecocks took down the Volunteers. South Carolina's offense could be better, could be vastly improved this fall if Spencer Rattler can show that level of consistency, be more consistent, cut down on the turnovers, and give South Carolina the best version of himself as a quarterback on a more consistent basis. My second reason why I feel like the Gamecocks offense could be better in 2023. Dowell Loggins keeps things simple And the success that we saw in the Tennessee and the Clemson games last season continues. You guys ever heard of the KISS theory or KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. Less is more, right? We've heard all these cliches. The reason they're cliches, guys, is because they're true. Less is more most of the time. Insert Dabble Loggins at the offensive coordinator spot. Marcus Satterfield is now gone. Swing past Sat is Nebraska's problem. If Dabble Loggins and Shane Beamer are truly able to take what they did well against Tennessee and Clemson and even Notre Dame in the bowl, but take what they did well at the end of last season, present a system and a scheme that is easy for these players to comprehend, to understand, because South Carolina, guys, we saw it all year last year. They were playing slow. They were playing half speed. They looked like they were running in quicksand. Why is that? Because you can't think and play at the same time. And we saw way too much of guys trying to play, but also thinking, am I supposed to be here? Do I do this? And when you're doing that, you don't have a chance. The game is too fast. The players are too good. If Dabble Loggins can keep things simple, if he can deliver on the promises that he made in his introductory press conference, let our playmakers go make plays. We're not going to ask too much of them. Take what he learned from Kendall Briles. Take what he learned in the NFL, whether it be positive, negative, what have you. Hey, the NFL stuff's history. It's a different game. You look at the teams he was with. They also weren't very good. If Dabble Loggins can indeed be the dude that that Shane Beamer so badly wanted, if he can be that guy, deliver on that, keep things simple, and go let playmakers make plays, because we feel as if South Carolina, when it comes to skill position players, has the pieces in place. And Dabble Loggins is able to somewhat scheme around that running game or get creative with the running game, if you will. South Carolina's offense could take a major step forward if Dabble Loggins is that dude, keeps things simple, and continues the success from late last season. My third reason why I feel the Gamecocks offense could be better this upcoming season. New blood up front equals new results for the South Carolina offensive line. Guys, I've mentioned it many times. We'll dive into it more so when I talk my position unit preview series. To be honest with you, on paper, there's not a lot of reasons to point to and say, this is why the running game, the offensive line, will be better this upcoming season. I mean, guys, you return 50 less starts from a year ago, and that O-line had its issues. Finished outside of the top 100 in rushing. Sometimes, though, I will say this, sometimes experience can be an overrated statistic. And I know the guys, there's people in college football, the analytics, they love returning experience, and they've got this amount of their production back, this percentage of their production. I'm not saying that it's not good to have a lot of your production return. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, guys, you know as well as I do, if you got 5 seniors on your O-line returning, but they're all average, you'd much rather have the young guys in there with the high upside that are 5 stars than the old veteran who's shown he's only able to get the job done at a very mediocre level. So, maybe, just maybe, the additions of guys like Nick Gargiulo, Sidney Fugar, Jackson Hughes, Marquis Anderson as a true freshman, maybe, and some new starters up front, maybe this combination of guys leads to different results, right? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Well, you got a new starting 5 practically. Only 2 starters return, and Jalen Nichols is probably out for the year. So it's a new look group. Maybe a new look group equals new results, both in the running game and protecting Spencer Rattler. My fourth reason why I think the Gamecocks offense could be better in 2023, Juice Wells establishes himself from game 1 as the most dynamic playmaker in the SEC. Guys, you did not have that a season ago. Juice Wells emerged late last year, and he showed flashes, certainly. I think back all the way to the Arkansas game when he had that long touchdown catch. And, you sort of knew what you had, but I don't feel like Juice Wells really became that feature guy until late in the season. If he's able to, and a lot of his numbers, right, they're dependent on Spencer Rattler and him being consistent and getting the football to him. But if he is able to be that consistent piece for you week in, week out, one of the best players in the SEC, that's going to give defenses a lot of problems. And it's going to make Spencer Rattler to Juice Wells one of the most dynamic hookups in this conference, arguably the best. Having him be that dude from game one, I think, could be a huge boost for this offense. And it's also, by the way, guys, it's going to open up other things for you offensively. Trey Knox at tight end, Joshua Simon at tight end, Xavier Legette at wide receiver, Amarian Brown, Nicholas Harbor, DeCarrion Joyner. It's going to help the running game. There are many ways it could help if Juice Wells is able to follow up what he did last year and be even better in this 2023 football season. So again, guys, Juice Wells being that dude, establishing himself from the first snap against UNC, that he is a feared playmaker on the outside, could help the Gamecocks offensively as a whole make major strides this fall. And my fifth and final reason, guys, why I think the Gamecocks offense could be better this season, DeCarrion Joyner has a storybook ending to his career at the running back position. It could happen. It could happen. Maybe, just maybe. Running back was the spot. It was the calling for DeCarrion Joyner this entire time. And we did not know. And guys, we've seen DeCarrion Joyner doubted before. And, while he has not been a feature player, DeCarrion Joyner has helped this football team. DeCarrion Joyner has helped South Carolina win games. Is it likely that DeCarrion Joyner rushes for 1,000 yards? No. But he could rush for 700. Heck, he could rush for 600. And that would be a huge boost considering that last year, your leading rusher in Marshawn Lloyd had less than 600 yards. If there's anybody you'd be willing to bet on going into a season like this with the odds stacked against you, it's a guy like DeCarrion Joyner who has seemed to taken on the naysayers, taken on the adversity, and proven them wrong at nearly every turn. If DeCarrion Joyner can embrace this running back role and maybe be a step or two ahead of where we thought he was going to be coming in, it could enhance the running game, which will enhance this offense. And what a storybook ending to his career it would be if Dak Joyner turns into that RB1 we are all seeking going into this season. Guys, we're going to jump into another break. On the side, I'm really excited. We got my good friend Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, coming up on the show. Really pumped. He should be dropping his South Carolina predictions here in the next week or so. I don't think he's dropped them quite yet, so I'll have to ask him on that. But really exciting stuff, guys, coming up with Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. We'll talk all that and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie Ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. I'm going to jump into a couple of questions before Mark Rogers comes on. Again, guys, thank you all so much. Really excited. As you can tell, it's funny. I kind of have to slow myself down a little bit because I get so excited to talk the content we have and obviously diving into offense, and we'll continue that conversation tomorrow, then talking defense Wednesday. We'll continue that conversation Thursday. We'll do special teams all in one day on Friday. But I just get so pumped, man. I get so pumped. It's a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys. And you guys all know I attack this thing with passion and with energy, and I'm just glad you guys rock with that and you enjoy it, man. I'm happy to hear that. Austin Gregory says, Moneyline Mondays, Robbie Davis over under 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Okay, so we're set 6 minutes and 10 seconds for Robbie Davis. Again, got Mark Rogers upcoming at 1:15, guys, in case you're wondering. Hunter Johnson says, still amazed that Rattler threw for 3,000 yards with Marcus Satterfield's scheme. Yeah. Swing pass sat. Couldn't even slow that down. Crazy. Austin Gregory says, expecting Jack Mahoney, Will Sanders, and possibly Cade Austin to have their names called today. Yeah, I would expect a couple of Gamecocks. What is it? Rounds 3 through 6, I think. I think it's rounds 3 through 6. I believe so. Let's see. I can tell you exactly. Here we go. Yeah. 3 through 10. So it's rounds 3 through 10 today. That starts at 2 o'clock. And then tomorrow, rounds 11 through 20, which starts at 2 o'clock. You know what's crazy, guys? Like the MLB draft used to be like 50 rounds. Literally. It used to be 50 rounds. Now it's 20 rounds. So it's wild. Anyways, guys, in case you missed it, Spencer Rattler, Tonka Hemingway, and Kai Kroger will be the 3 representatives at SEC Media Days for South Carolina. How about Chase Floyd? Join so Chris can afford a nice suit for SEC Media Days. Yeah, Big Cock Club, patreon.com/Big Cock Club, and/or click the link in our bio, Big Cock Club link right there to join today. The most exclusive Gamecocks community on the internet. We've got the Discord. We got private content. You get early access to things. Ask anyone who's in. It's a lot of fun. Let's see. Madison Duncan says, Chris, looking forward to your show to bring SEC Media Days. Are you broadcasting from Nashville? Yes. So, Madison, I will not have a table at SEC Media Days. We will not have a table because we got approved late, got in late, and unfortunately they were full. However, it actually, Madison, works out a lot better. I think it actually works out a lot better because all the festivities throughout the day, I really want to be able to enjoy those festivities. Madison, we will go live at night. What time at night, I'm not 100% sure because I have the itinerary for SEC Media Days right here in front of me. You guys want to know what's going on? I'll give you the itinerary. Why not? Let's do it. Let's do it here. We also have this SEC Media Days packet, which, oh yeah, I got the Wi-Fi. I got everything, man. How about it? Here we go. Okay, so this is, and look, dude, how about this? I didn't even realize I had the attendees this morning. I could have broken this news, and I had it. I didn't even realize that. Anyways, yes. Tonka Hemingway, Kai Kroger, Spencer Rattler. Here's the itinerary, though, Madison, for SEC Media Days. Y'all ready? Here's the itinerary. So we're checking in on Sunday. Monday, we got Greg Sankey, and these are all Central Time, by the way. Greg Sankey speaks at 11:30, followed by LSU, Brian Kelly. That'll be from 11:30 to 1:45 Central Time. 1:45 to 4:55, we've got Texas A&M and Mizzou will be speaking to the media. That's 1:45 to 4:55 Central Time. Okay. After that, there was a break, but 6:30 to 8:30, There was a media reception at Bridgestone Arena in Nashville, the Nashville Predators Arena. There is a media reception from 6:30 to 8:30. How about that? On Tuesday, John McDade, SEC coordinator of football officials, will speak 8:15 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's going to be early. 9 a.m. to 12:15 p.m., we got Vandy and Georgia speaking. Again, these are all Central Time. 1 o'clock to 4:10, we've got Auburn and Mississippi State. And then 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Don't have to stay the whole time. But 5 o'clock, 9 o'clock, kickoff on Broadway. It is a fan event on Lower Broadway. SEC Nation begins at 6 p.m. Midland Concert begins at 7. So probably at I'd say 8 p.m. Eastern. 8 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, 7 o'clock Eastern, we'll go live with the Daily Crow. Wednesday, we've got Football Writers Association of America, 8:45 to 9. 9 o'clock to 12:15. Again, all these times Central. 9 o'clock to 12:15, we got Alabama and Arkansas going. 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we've got Florida and Kentucky. And then 6:30 to 8:30 at Nissan Stadium. Yours truly gets to go to the Titans Stadium. 6:30 to 8:30, we got the media reception at Nissan Stadium. How about that? Let's go. Let's go. Wait, you are right, Chase. It's the other way around. Central, okay, so Central Time. Okay, I'm getting confused. I promise you, Chase, we'll go live. I'll figure out my time zones. Then on Thursday, we got the National Football Foundation, 8:45 to 9. 9 to 2:15, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Tennessee. So I would assume Shane Beamer's going to be speaking, 11:30 or so in the big room, probably something like that. And that's it. So that's your schedule for SEC Media Days. We got plenty of time to worry about that next week. In the meantime, it's Monday, and every single Monday afternoon, we talk to my good friend Mark Rogers, the voice of college football. He joins us yet again. Mark, what is going on, my friend? It's great to see you. I feel like it's been a while, but really excited to talk some college football for you. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Chris, I'm doing just fine. I jumped on here and heard you reading the itinerary for the SEC Media Days, and I just noticed here in opening my email that I've got the full rundown of media credentials and kickoff media information, parking for the SEC Media Days, and so forth and so on. I think I could still probably make it.
Come on, let's go. Hey, I don't know if you saw, man, this happened over the last 2 weeks or week and a half or so, but yeah, I mean, I'll be making my first ever appearance. So, I mean, awesome. I think the first go around, I'm highlighting all this stuff. Maybe it's something that it'll get old or what have you, but I'm very pumped, man. I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't extremely excited, and not just for the South Carolina reason, but to see all these coaches, these players, meet some people, a lot of people that I've had on my show or even talked to on a regular basis that I've never met in person. So just grateful for the opportunity, man. I'm looking forward to it. So maybe you should slide down. It'd be a lot of fun.
It would be fun. It really would be fun. I went to 7 straight and it never got old. And it wasn't the gala that it is now. You know, I'm talking late 90s, 2000. We thought it was a big deal at the time, but it's blown up into, a massive TV show since then. If I could share one SEC Media Day experience here, this is why I always have a soft spot in my heart for one Tommy Tuberville. It was right when he got the Ole Miss job, and it was his first SEC Media Days. I was doing the 6 o'clock sports cast for the station I worked for live at the SEC Media Days. But by 6 o'clock, the place is cleared. The coaches were a couple miles away at another hotel having, their big luncheon or their big dinner and so forth and so on. And we wanted to have Tommy Tuberville on, and we got word to him. He left their coaching dinner to come all the way down the street, have to navigate the parking and everything, show up and doing live interview with me for the news that night. So I always appreciated Tommy Tuberville for doing that. And a lot of other things that he did after that, opening up his office during National Signing Day, and we'd sit there with the whiteboard and he'd run down the prospects and let us just walk right onto the field and practice and interview him. And he was great to work with. But it started with that first time, didn't know who I was at the time, and still came all that way because he knew, hey, I'm the new coach at Ole Miss. Nobody's given us a hell of a chance in any way to do anything. We're coming off probation, man. I gotta get the word out. I gotta sell myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to your point, Mark, again, SEC Media Days has, I mean, I think to myself, like Steve Spurrier's first SEC Media Days. I mean, I think the only way to like really follow along with that was like the newspaper. Like, I'm making myself sound old, but like, I don't ever recall, the only time I ever remember SEC Media Days getting like real airtime was when the SEC Network was launched. And I mean, that's when it really became this, I remember 2013 SEC Media Days and following along on Twitter because obviously social media changed the game. It was getting even more coverage. And, I'll never forget Jadeveon Clowney coming in that season and, saying that Taj Boyd and Aaron Murray were scared of him. And like, it's such a fun time for quotes or storylines or what have you. You're right. It's become truly a 4-day television show, full-on produced event, what have you. And again, like I mentioned, I'm just so excited to get to experience it firsthand in person and also in a great city like Nashville, somewhere I've never been before. So looking forward to that. But Mark, let me ask you this just on the note of it. We now know who's going for South Carolina: Spencer Rattler, Tonka Hemingway, and Kai Kroger. But when you look at SEC Media Days as a whole, what are the storylines that jump out to you that you are most excited and intrigued to follow next week?
Well, there are two things that I routinely follow because they arrive each and every year without question. One is Greg Sankey. He is the commissioner of college football in terms of being a conference commissioner. I know the Big Ten's in the running, but obviously Sankey has been running the SEC for quite a long time now. He is the gold standard when it comes to commissioners. So whatever he believes he needs to represent, he needs to trumpet, he needs to take on as a narrative, that is always very telling in regards to what is on his mind, what is he trying to sell, push back on. So whatever his big topic is going to tell us a lot about where he's headed with his conference and what he deems important. The other is the obvious, Nick Saban. He's the dean of college football coaches from the standpoint of just being the greatest of all time. And he usually has something on his mind that he wants to get across as well, whether that's NIL or the schedule or whatever. He's going to make it a point to say in a bunch of different ways, I'm just a coach. I don't have any authority in this, but this is the way it should be. So those two come first and foremost for me. Yeah. The other is this separation of the mid-tier teams within the conference. When I look at a South Carolina, when I look at, Texas A&M is just such an odd situation. Arkansas, when I look at these really good, talented teams that could break either way, am I going to get a good feel coming out of media days or a bad feel for the trajectory?
Mm-hmm. I think another one too, Mark, and I want to bring this to the forefront. How much do you think, because we all know, Georgia, the back-to-back national champions, they're going for their third straight national title. Kirby Smart is going to want to talk about football and nothing but he's going to be asked about, I feel like, everything but football with all the off the field. How much of a storyline do you think that is? Do you think the media pries and prods and does everything they can to ask him about maybe some quote unquote culture issues in Athens?
Chris, if it wasn't so serious, it would be comical. Like all these driving related incidents. What is going on there? I tweeted out the other day that any young man the age of 25 and under, if their premiums go up in the state of Georgia, they know who to blame. It's a Georgia football team. It's unbelievable. How can there be this many incapable, incompetent, reckless drivers on one football team?
Yeah, it's wild to follow, man. I was going to ask you too, Mark. I mean, it feels like, expect the unexpected in the SEC, the chaos, the emotion, the energy. And you just look back at last year, and South Carolina was directly, I shouldn't say affected by it, but it was the Mark Stoops thing with the comments that Stoops made about the silly sunglasses, what have you, and then Shane Beamer and company take that personally. I just wonder what might come of this. And it's not something we can really predict, project, whatever, but it'll be very interesting this year to see like kind of what the vibe is, what the mood is, and if something like that maybe arises yet again.
Well, it's great that you bring this up because the league has always had two or three outliers, guys that are more willing to say what's on their mind and be out there and take some shots at some other guys. Brett Bielema would do that when he was around. Steve Spurrier obviously would do that when he was around. Lane Kiffin's still around to do that. And then you also have this old guard versus new guard that you're kind of pointing to here. And I don't think it's as obvious as it used to be. We used to have so many Bobby Bowdens and Joe Paternos around to kind of, that were just these legacy coaches versus kind of a new guard of coaches. And now it's a little bit more mixed. And I think, the Nick Saban era of coach has generally gone away. So it's not as quite as stark a contrast, but yeah, a guy comes in like a Shane Beamer and he offends guys that have been around the league for a few years. And if he has initial success and now he's riding high off of two really huge wins, that he's a threat to a number of guys because we're all making comparisons about who's getting the job done and who's not getting the job done. And when a guy can take over a 2-8 football team and make it a really good team here in just a few years, well, he's going to be a bit of a target, especially when he's doing all this other stuff.
Well, and I think Shane Beamer, Mark, what he's done such a good job of, and of course, we'll talk about this a lot next week also, but, you look at his 2 SEC Media Day appearances. And I mean, I think that fans can sometimes get lost in like media days and talking season because, I mean, everybody's going to go up to the podium right now and sell why their team is on the rise and why they're going to have a great season, right? I mean, you're never going to go to the booster events or listen to your head coach in a preseason presser and hear them say, we're just terrible. We're going to be no good. We got no leaders. Like I don't know if you saw the Spurrier clip circulating, which ironically enough came before the 2015 season when South Carolina did indeed stink. But, when he's like, you never hear a coach say this, like, we're just terrible, whatever. But Shane Beamer, I think in his 2 years at Media Days has done a really, really good job of selling the Gamecocks program. And I think he understands that every opportunity behind the microphone, behind a camera, at a podium, what have you, it is an opportunity to sell the program to recruits, to prospects who are most likely watching. And I expect nothing less from Beamer this go around as well.
Yeah, I really find it interesting who each one of these head coaches select to show up because we want to see the stars. We want to see the quarterbacks. They generally don't have an issue with that as long as that guy that they choose, those 3 players now that they choose, are very clean in their representation of the school. So I always find it interesting of who those guys select to bring with them as well to kind of toe the company line, deliver the right message. And, it's a bit of a reward for those guys that are doing the right thing, but also you need to bring some star power. A lot of offensive linemen show up to the SEC Media Days that a lot of folks don't necessarily. No offense to the offensive linemen, I think they're great. I think they make it all work, but a lot of people don't want to see show up. But they're many times the best representation of the program in terms of doing the right thing, going to class, working hard, being able to deliver a sentence that makes sense and doesn't offend anyone.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the representatives, Mark, this year. I mean, Spencer Rattler, after not going last year, and I think the decision made sense, right? Rattler was a guy who had not taken a snap at South Carolina, and you had some veteran dudes who you felt like, had paid their dues and deserved to go, and I think it worked out well. But I mean, listen, I was disappointed when he didn't go last year. Maybe it was a little bit selfish because I'm a content man, you're a content man. I cannot wait to hear what Spencer Rattler has to say about this new look Gamecocks offense under Dowell Loggins and the things they're doing. Also, of course, Tonka Hemingway, who's going to be a leader up front. Then you bring in Kai Kroger on the special team side, your punter, which I think because of the identity of your program, Beamer Ball, I mean, I just think it makes sense to continue to reinforce that brand. So cannot wait to hear what Spencer Rattler has to say and, all of the representatives for South Carolina in that regard as well. Mark, I want to move into this. I dropped my predictions for South Carolina last week. I'm sure you may have seen those, but I just want to get your thoughts on them. I won't go scores as well, but just wins and losses. I've got South Carolina going 7-5, 4-4 in SEC play. I've got them beating UNC, Furman, Florida, Mizzou, Jacksonville State, Vandy, Kentucky. I've got them losing to Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Texas A&M, and Clemson. Your thoughts on those picks, your immediate reaction? Am I way off? Am I on? What is your reaction to those predictions from yours truly?
I think I'm just a few feet away from my notebook that's got all my predictions down. And
so you're ready. Yeah. So I didn't want to put you on the spot, but are you?
And well, without checking, because I know you would have loved to have had my predictions video out at this point.
You're putting them out right now. So I want to make sure everybody in this chat right now, everybody who tunes in, make sure right now you're listening via podcast. Go to YouTube, check out the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers, dropping all of his predictions for everybody in college football. South Carolina will be upcoming soon. I know Gamecock fans will be very interested to hear that. So if you're ready to drop them right now, you can. I'm not going to pressure you into it, but it's all up to you, my friend.
Well, I will say, without double checking, 7-5, 4-4 sounds pretty familiar. That Mississippi State game out of all those would be one that would be good to flip to the win column to make that a nicer looking 8-4. Nobody wants to regress. That's a tough schedule. It's a daunting schedule. Give South Carolina a ton of credit for scheduling North Carolina when they already have Clemson. Not everybody's doing that all the time. Scheduling a second difficult Power 5. And, of course, the SEC is the SEC. And so it's Mississippi State and Texas A&M in the other division. And what you don't want to see happen is, if that prediction does come true, is obviously to the average fan, it's regression. It's we were 8-4 last year. We're going 7-5 this year. We can't have that. So that you are what your record is, that's not a good thing.
And I agree with you, Mark. It's not all progress it's not all linear, right? It's not all built equally. So just because you go 7-5 this year, it doesn't mean you took some major step back, right? And obviously, like, the way it plays out, how you win and lose matters. Like, the record doesn't tell the full story. And admittedly, Mark, I'll tell you this, because the Mississippi State pick is the one that I've probably caught the most grief for. And, it's funny, Mark, like, when I sit down and make predictions, I mean, I have kind of an idea in my head, but it's really just what comes to me in that moment. Like, what hits me. I trust my gut. And I'm not a big pat myself on the back guy when it comes to picks, but year one of Beamer, I had 6-6, 3-5. They went 6-6, 3-5. Last year I had 8-4, 4-4. They went 8-4 and 4-4. So I'm trusting my gut this go around. And that Mississippi State game, South Carolina very well could win, by the way. They could. Because I think Carolina top to bottom has a better roster than Mississippi State. They have more talent. But coming off that Georgia game, you're beat up, you're banged up. That's got a nooner at Willie B written all over it. I think Mississippi State, Mark, I think people are over-exaggerating the downfall of their program because of the late, great Mike Leach, rest in peace. They've still got a talented football team. Will Rogers, I think, is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the SEC, which we'll talk about that more in just a second. But I'm just saying, we've seen South Carolina, Mark, do this before. Like, this is not something new where we've seen the Gamecocks go into a game like this where they're favored in the ball game, what have you, and just in inexplicable fashion drop one that they shouldn't. Now, we've also seen South Carolina turn around, which, Mark, I don't know if you noticed this, and you may disagree. I think Kentucky is a favorite over South Carolina in that November game. I think Kentucky's going to have a good season. I've got them going 8-4. So I think that's the game that the Carolina at home steals late in the season to get it back. So that's sort of my thought process, if you will. It's not that I think Mississippi State's just head and shoulders a better football team. I think it's one certainly Carolina could turn, but it just feels all too familiar to me, if I'm being totally honest.
Well, I'm right there with you on the Bulldogs of Mississippi State. I just think, yes, rest in peace, Mike Leach, legend, offensive genius, guru. They bring back a ton of production on both sides of the ball. Their defense is stout. They're a good team that just came off of 9-4. So, and they beat like a string of not great teams, good teams. They beat Auburn and Texas A&M and Ole Miss. They beat a lot of good teams in winning 4 games in the SEC. So, yeah, that just jumped out at me, and I didn't know offhand where the game was being played. So they're in Starkville, right?
No, they're in Williams-Brice. So that's
Okay.
the kicker,
So
right?
you're saying the
So
noon
if
game,
I'll
come on.
I'll tell you this. If this is a night game at Willie B, I may feel a little bit differently, right? Because things change. South Carolina seems to be a different team late, but it feels like it's got that nooner written all over it. So again, it is very well a game South Carolina could win. But I look at it this way, Mark. I think week 1 against UNC, I know you've gone on record, said that's a win for Carolina. I believe you have at least. I look at Mississippi State as North Carolina with better lines of scrimmage. And I think Carolina's got real concerns up front now. I really do. Like, I don't think UNC that I've picked as a 31-27 win, I don't think UNC is going to have the bodies in the trenches to expose South Carolina. I think the Gamecocks, I think they're probably going to look a little bit better on both lines of scrimmage than they actually are, because I just don't think UNC's got those type of athletes. Furman's Furman. It's a wash. Georgia's so far ahead of you. I don't think that's really truly going to be like the measuring stick game, some think. I think Mississippi State's going to be like the first real, like, okay, this is somebody on your level, or maybe slightly above you, but pretty much on your level in the line of scrimmage. Let's see how you fare. So it is a fascinating game for a number of reasons, for sure.
Yeah, and the SEC is full of fascinating games because, again, one of my opening lines here was mid-tier teams. I want to start to get a feel for, starting with media days, who I believe could break out versus who may slide back, because I think that mid-tier, the SEC, is so good, so stacked, so superior to every other conference in the nation, that the difference between 5-7 and 8-4, we all laughed at Texas A&M last year, and rightfully so. They lost a ton of one-score games. That can turn around in a hurry record-wise without them doing a whole lot better. So 5-7 to 8-4 in this league is serious.
Now, Mark, I want to give you my SEC predictions and just get your thoughts on it. I've got Georgia winning the East, surprise, surprise, at 12-0, 8-0. I think they go undefeated yet again. I just don't know who in the world is going to – the only 2 games that give me pause, Auburn and Tennessee. But dude, the Dogs are just so much better than everybody else. I got Tennessee 9-3, 5-3 in SEC. I got South Carolina finishing 3rd, 7-5, 4-4, with the tiebreaker over Kentucky, who I've got 8-4, 4-4, and 4th. I've got Florida in 5th. They've got the tiebreaker over Mizzou, but I got the Gators going 5-7, 3-5. Mizzou finishing 6-6, 3-5, and then Vanderbilt 7th, 4-8, 1-7. In the West, I've got LSU winning the West, 11-1, 7-1. Believe it or not, Mark, I've got their one loss to Mississippi State. I don't know. I got on this upset train to Mississippi State for some reason. Just a weird, wacky game, right? But winning all the rest, beating Bama and Tuscaloosa. I got Bama 9-3, 6-2. I got them losing to Texas that week 2 game. I've got A&M 9-3. I'm an idiot. I know, Mark. I can't give it up. A&M's like that drug I can't put down. 9-3, 5-3 in SEC play. Arkansas 4th, 7-5, 3-5. Auburn 5th, 7-5, 3-5. Mississippi State 6th, 6-6, 3-5. And then the really, like, it feels wrong, but I got Ole Miss 7th, 6-6, 2-6 in league play. Your initial reaction to those SEC predictions, and I got Georgia beating LSU in the SEC championship.
Well, I'm going to go back to a talking point that I bring up every so often, and that's that there's going to be teams out there that are going to surprise us this year. That seems like an obvious statement, but I mean that there are going to be teams that are going to be 3 games better or worse, at least more than we think. And I got to say, Chris, I tell you that, I tell everybody that, but when I make my predictions, they're tough to find. Well, Texas A&M's an obvious one. They should improve from 5-7. I'm at that 8-4 or better. Haven't released that pick, so I'll give that one away. They're one. And, Florida, man, they're not that bad, but they're certainly bad for Florida. And against that schedule, things could fall off the rails. So, obviously, you're not believing in Bama's quarterback situation, And you really believe in LSU.
I like, yeah. I don't know if it's we do these opponent preview series or whatever, and I don't know if the LSU guy just got in my ear, but dude, they return a ton offense. That offense is filthy, dude. And Perkins at linebacker, and they retooled on the defense in the portal. And I'm a believer in LSU, man. Even though they've got to go to Tuscaloosa, which our friend Chris Marler joined us, a Bama guy, and he pointed out that LSU hasn't beaten Bama back-to-back years, and it felt like 100 years or something. So, I mean, I do have serious questions about Alabama quarterback. I'm not sold on it. I think Texas wins week 2. I don't know if it's Milroe. I don't know if it's Simpson. I don't know if it's Buck. I have no idea. And it just feels like when I look at LSU and Bama, if I'm picking Bama to win the West, I'm solely doing so because I'm saying I just trust Nick Saban's going to do what he always does and get it done and use all this rat poison and use all this. But like on paper, LSU is that team. They are the team to beat, in my opinion, the SEC West. You go down the list of position units, and LSU, it feels like, has the advantage, man. So could Bama do what they typically do, that same song and dance, and just prove everybody wrong? Because I'm really intrigued, Mark, to see who the media picks. Who will the media pick, Bama or LSU? Because it's like, again, like your point, on one hand, you've got Lord Nick at SEC Media Days, and it's like, do we dare go against the throne? And then you got Brian Kelly at LSU, and it's like, but man, so I just, here's my biggest hang up with Bama, Mark. You had Bryce Young and Will Anderson on that team last year, and you went 10-2. So you're telling me they're going to get better losing them? I know they reload, but I don't know, man. I struggle to see that. So I'm going to ride with LSU. I could be dead wrong. Hey, again, this is my first year, Mark, locking in picks at SEC Media Days, and I don't know. I might get my credentials revoked after picking Bama to go 9-3. So I don't know.
You got to think that the media has gone with Saban every year that he's been there since he got things going.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's going to be fascinating to see because, again, I think on paper LSU looks sexy, but again, it's Alabama we're talking about, and Nick Saban, they'll figure it out. So I also dropped, Mark, I wanted to get your thoughts on this really quickly. Again, we've been doing a lot of ranking stuff, whatever, the last week or so has been a lot of fun. I dropped full SEC quarterback rankings. I'll just run down the list. KJ Jefferson 1, Jaden Daniels 2. I have Will Rogers 3, Spencer Rattler 4. By the way, this is going into the season. Okay, I want to specify that. Joe Milton 5, Devin Leary at Kentucky 6, Connor Wegman at A&M 7, Jackson Dart 8. I got Jalen Milroe 9, Carson Beck 10, Peyton Thorne 11, Brady Cook 12, AJ Swan 13. I got Graham Mertz 14. I'm not very high on Florida, Mark. Your thoughts on the quarterback rankings? I know you dropped your own. How do you feel like I did?
I like Leary a little bit better. I think otherwise they're very comparable. I had Milroe at 10, so I'm right there with you, 9 or 10. And then Carson Beck, I had higher. It's difficult for me, even though I tell everyone when I produce these videos, I am ranking the player. This is not a statistical prognostication because everybody around Carson Beck's amazing that he could be the 7th best quarterback in the SEC, and his numbers might be top 2 or 3 in terms of efficiency and TDs because everybody's so good around him. Or you could be, you could move, Bryce Young could have been playing for Vandy the last 3 years. Is he going to put up the same numbers? Of course not. So I try to separate and just focus on the player, which is nearly impossible to do in a team sport. But otherwise, I'm right there with you. I do have Beck higher, Leary a little bit higher as well.
Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, joins us every single Monday. Mark, one last thing before I let you go, and why not? Let's just have some fun, man. I know it might be a little bit of a difficult question because we just solely have to project, but if there's a storyline that we come out of SEC Media Days, let's say there's something we are talking about that we did not expect we would be coming out of Media Days, what would you think it is? Is it something regarding what a player said, coach said, something else? Like, do you think there could be like a surprise talking point coming out of Media Days? Does it have to do with Greg Sankey and their approach on an 8-game, 9-game schedule? Like, what do you think could be the surprise talking point coming out of next week?
I want to hear what Jimbo Fisher has to say about his team, and I want to see if he's going to try to lay low or if he's going to be bold and say, we are this good. Forget last season. We are this good. We should be this good. We should be the SEC champion. I think Brian Kelly's got a little bit of that in him as well, to say, he's said all this about, I came to this league to beat Bama, to beat Saban, to be that team. They kind of got it done last year. Well, they got it done, even though they had a lot of losses surrounding, but they got the important wins and already accomplished that to a certain extent. But to fully establish themselves as the team in the West, those two coaches have a lot of pressure on them and a lot of expectations.
Mark, appreciate you taking the time, man. Looking forward to chatting next week. SEC Media Days in Nashville. Going to be a ton of fun, man. Hey, we're getting closer. When SEC Media Days is around the corner, that means college football is on the verge as well. Mark Rogers, voice of college football. Appreciate you taking the time, Mark. We'll talk again soon.
Chris, you have a good time down there.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Mark Rogers, always a pleasure to chat with him every single Monday, guys. We're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, though, our Q&A Power Hour. I want to hear from each and every single one of you. 843-790-3377. Taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho, Dougie, ho. That's your Dougie ho. Dougie ho.
All right, guys, we're back as our Q&A Power Hour officially begins here on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. 843-790-3377. You can give us a ring, guys. I want to say thank you again to our friend Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, for taking the time to chat with us. Always a pleasure to hear from Mark Rogers. Always really, really good stuff. Again, thank you all so much for tuning in, guys. We're going to get into your questions, your comments, everything as we continue to break down South Carolina's 2023 football season, guys. Cannot wait till next week to be in Nashville at SEC Media Day. It's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it. The content is going to be absolutely electric, folks. It's going to be absolutely electric. I can tell you that right now. Going to be a lot of fun. Again, 843-790-3377. I want to hear from each and every single one of you. I want to hear from each and every single one of you here on this Monday. Let's get into your questions. Let's see. Lynn Turner made this point earlier. You got to have help from your wide receivers, the gunslinger at quarterback. We got none of that early on. Wide receivers were the most disappointing group for me early last year. That's a really good point, Lynn. Hey, that's a really, really good point. You make a great point. South Carolina's got to get more out of the wide receiver position from guys not named Juice Wells. That is a great point. Hayden says, I've been high on Juju, but maybe running back by committee would be a good strategy for now until someone proves themselves to be the top ball carrier. Wes Bowles says, I'm not worried about the run game. I'm worried about blocking in the backfield. Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, listen, the offensive line as a whole is an area of concern. I don't know why, Wes, you wouldn't be worried about the run game, though, because that was a run game that finished outside of the top 100 last year. And there are I'm struggling to find reasons why they're going to make a significant jump this year. Let's see. Lynn Turner says, I always said DK5 would be a better running back than wide receiver. I'm excited to see him there. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Going to be a lot of fun. I think DeCarrion Joyner showed flashes, and based off what Shane Beamer has said, he's further along and doing better than maybe even they expected. Let's see. Lynn Turner says, better than revamped. We reloaded the tight end room. We did. Lynn also says, Leggett is looking like a beast. I hope he can show up this year. We saw flashes last year. He just needs to be consistent. Yeah, I mean, Leggett, certainly, he's got the size. He's got the skill. It's just all about that consistency. A lot of things on this roster come down to consistency for sure. Hunter Johnson says, wide receivers loaded with talent. Some kids don't want to have to fight tooth and nail to start. Oh, talking about the recruit. Okay. Austin Hicks says, I just found this out. DQ Smith was second in total solo tackles on the team with 40. Didn't even play as much as many of the other players. Yeah, he was really good last year. But when your safeties are accumulating that many tackles, not quite what you want to see. Madison Duncan says, Georgia quarterback is ranked 10th. Rattler is 3rd on SEC quarterback rankings. Madison Duncan, fight, win, kick ass. Yeah, dude, I love this shirt. Admittedly, this merchandise never really took off as some of the others, obviously. Dude, it's one of my favorite shirts I have. I love this shirt. Just simply go fight, win, kick ass. It's such a specific South Carolina thing. I don't know. I was kind of surprised. Maybe a little bit of a slept-on collection. I thought this collection, and I think this collection is a really, really cool one. So, Austin Gregory with a fun hypothetical. If I told you Rattler wins the Heisman before the season starts, How much does that change your record projection for us this year of 7-5? I mean, Austin, for Spencer Rattler to win the Heisman, Carolina has to win at minimum 10 games. At minimum. Because the Heisman's either, it's basically the best quarterback on the best team. That's pretty much what it comes down to. Yeah, I mean, Spencer Rattler, this team would have to go 10-2. I mean, think about it this way, Austin. Hendon Hooker didn't win it last year. Hendon Hooker didn't even get an invite to the ceremony. And he had the numbers he had. So, I mean, you think about how good of a season. You think about how good of a season he'd have to have, truly. Madison says, Chris, looking forward to your show during SEC Media Days. Are you broadcasting from Nashville? Yes, I will. Again, the times are TBD, but we will be broadcasting live from Nashville, Tennessee. Let's see. Continuing through your questions as we come up on our third and final hour. Austin Gregory asked this, do you think there will be any drama around SEC Media Days this year? Last year, we had the tail end of the Jimbo Saban feud and witnessed Stoops take a dig at Beamer's antics with the sunglasses and dancing. You know, Austin, there's, you know, it's hard to predict something like that. It's hard to predict something like that. But I will say I'd be stunned if something didn't come up, right? Somebody's going to say something. A player, a coach, somebody will say something. I mean, Austin, it's SEC Media Days, man. Storylines abound, my dude. Storylines abound. Let's see. Mark Rogers will be dropping his South Carolina game-by-game predictions soon. So, Cocky Joe says, Gamecocks will not lose to Mississippi State. That's a fair statement, Cocky Joe. Austin Gregory replies and says, this game is getting an unnecessary amount of attention. We have a better shot at losing to Furman than to Mississippi State. Austin, you don't even believe that. Come on, man. You think South? Come on, man. If you want to say it's a bad pick that you don't agree with, that's fine. But saying the Gamecocks have a better chance of losing to Furman than Mississippi State, you lose me there, man. You lose me there. John Edward, here we go again. What we've done in the past. John Edward, the past does not define you, but it is a good indicator of what your future may hold. Just saying. Let's see. Austin Gregory, Florida is not going bowling this year. 4-8. He also says LSU is for real. He says Alabama currently has 3 of the top 6 classes of all time on their roster. There's no excuse for Bama this year. Questions at quarterback or not. Austin Gregory on a roll. He says LSU's Harold Perkins will win Defensive Player of the Year. Mark it down. Let's see. Continuing through your questions. Again, guys, really excited. I am joining my good buddy Dimitri Ravanos. Dimitri Ravanos on 107.5 The Game at 3:10 as we talk all things Gamecocks football. Going to be a lot of fun. Highly encourage you guys to tune into the show. Going to be a blast. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Monday. Let's see. Jacob E. says, I think Bama takes the West and they win the favorable home games. That's fair. That's very, very fair. That's very fair. Guys, in case you missed it, we talked all things offense today. In case you want to go back and listen, the podcast will drop this afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, and we'll keep the conversation rolling tomorrow, talking Gamecocks offense heading in the 2023 football season. iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, that is where you can find the podcast, wherever you get your podcast. So every single day, 5 p.m. Eastern. Again, guys, next week is going to be a little bit different because we are in Nashville for SEC Media Days. We're in Nashville for SEC Media Days. So the plan is this. I'm probably planning on going live Sunday night to start off, to kick the week off with TDC. And as I was just told by my friend Chase, because I don't understand apparently how time zones work. So if it's 7 o'clock in Nashville, it's 8 o'clock on the East Coast. So there's a good chance, guys, we're going to be going live very late, okay? And I cannot promise you these will be 3-hour shows. I don't know exactly if they'll be 3-hour shows, but of course, the content rolls on. And I really want to document my week in Nashville. I want to document SEC Media Days and give you guys full takeaways from the day. Also, next week, we begin our opponent preview series for the Gamecocks 2023 football season, where we'll talk to someone from the opposing side for every single game this season. So, for example, probably Sunday night, we will drop our UNC opponent preview with a UNC representative. Then we'll talk Furman. Then we'll talk Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to get that in as well, but it's going to be a lot of that, a lot of SEC Media Days talk, and everything in between, guys. I mean, there will be plenty of content next week. We'll have to see if our guests can do these different days, and if they can't, guys, again, we'll just shorten up the show. So just roll with the punches. Also, what that means is this, guys. The podcast next week is going to go back to dropping the traditional schedule. What is the traditional schedule? 5 a.m. So all my morning commuters, you guys will have the podcast every single day at 5 a.m. Eastern, except on Friday, because Thursday we will not go live. Friday, I will be back right here in studio talking everything that Shane Beamer had to say, the players had to say, what have you, and, continuing along with our opponent previews as well, and dropping the podcast as normal at 5 p.m. Eastern. So it's going to be a fun week next week, no doubt. It's going to be a fun week, no doubt. Let's see. Dale says, Dale from East Tennessee. Chris, you're going to meet me at Shoney's when you go through East Tennessee on your way to Nashville. Let's do it, Dale. Why not? BDD out. Let's do it, Dale. I'm down. Hayden Yu says, vlog. Yes, the vlog, the Behind the Beak mini vlogs, Hayden, will return next week. I'm gonna document, like I said, the entire week in Nashville. Going to be a lot of fun. Jeff Gullidge, are you going to get to ask questions at Media Day? If so, are you going to ask Stoops if he regrets making the sunglasses comment? Jeff, yes, I will get to ask questions at Media Day, especially in the big room. Am I going to ask any questions that are, I'm probably, admittedly, guys, I'm probably not going to go too off the wall because I'd like to get invited back. I'll be totally honest with you. So I don't know yet, Jeff. We'll see how I feel in the moment. I may phrase the question a little bit differently, Jeff, because it's all about being crafty, right? If I'm going to go to an event like this, you got to somewhat sort of play by their rules to a degree. You got to play by their rules to a degree, which is totally fine, by the way. Which is totally fine. I don't mind it at all. But, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, though, Jeff. We're going to get to ask questions. I even got like I said, I got the email this morning, and they're talking about, you're required to keep your credentials on you at all times. I'm like, we're going to have credentials that say Chris Phillips, the Spurs Up Show on the credentials. Just crazy. Honestly, just crazy. Really awesome, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm excited. I mean, again, guys, I can't say it enough that, I'm not someone, I can't say it enough how grateful I am for each and every single one of you. But I mean, I'll go back and say this too. I'm not excited because I need the validation of like, man, now credentials, well, now I know I'm legit. Like, it has nothing to do with that. I know what we're doing with TSUS, with content, with merchandise, with business, with everything. It stands on its own merit, needs no external validation from anyone. I'm just selfishly really excited to go to this event, to go to the city of Nashville for the first time. and meet so many people that I've had the pleasure of interacting with and talking with and having on the show. And some people I have on the show weekly that I've never met in person. Like, I can't wait for that side of it, honestly. So I'm looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a lot of fun. Austin Gregory says, if Beamer and Drinkwitz got into a physical altercation, who you're putting your money on? I refuse, Austin, to take Drinkwitz in that scenario. I just absolutely refuse. Absolutely refuse. Austin Gregory, I want Beamer to take the podium in sunglasses. That would be the ultimate dig at Stoops. I do not see it, Austin, happening. I'm sure the media team, though, will have something planned. I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. Mary chimes in, says 9-3 for the Gamecocks. 9-3. I hear you. Hey, it could very well happen. It could happen. Will Hall says, with the questions at O-line and running back, I find it tough to convince myself Rattler will have a better year than last year. More passes and less INTs will for sure help, but he's got a ball. I mean, that's the thing, Will. You're not a pessimistic Gamecock fan if you're simply acknowledging the question marks around South Carolina this year. I mean, people want to see you pick 8-4, 9-3, 10-2, but like, until we see what Carolina can do running the football,
call from.
It's tough to say. Here we go. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Press 1.
And we had a call from Columbia, and they just hung up. So if you want to call back in, you're more than welcome. 843-790-3377. Austin Gregory says, Beamer ball, baby. Yeah, maybe Kai Kroger can throw 5 or 6 touchdowns this year. Maybe so. Kai Kroger to media days, awesome, dude. I love that. I love the fact that Kai Kroger going to media days, you continue to build the Beamer ball brand, if you will. Shout out my guy, Eric Reese, by the way. What's up, Eric? The man behind the graphics who makes us look so cool. Let's jump back to the phone lines.
Call from.
What's going on, man? How are you?
I'm doing all right. I just got off the phone with a employer. Wanted to offer me a job, so I will be taking it. And so I'm no longer unemployed.
Fair. Hey, Dalton, congratulations, my friend. Congratulations, Dalton. Dalton, the Vol hater, the enjoyer of the homie Lamont, is now, once again, I should say, employed. Dalton, congratulations. Seriously, man. That's awesome. Great start to your week.
Yeah, it certainly was. But I know it's football season, and, you know, we want to talk about the expectations and everything going into 2023. But as you probably already know, the Major League Baseball draft started last night. And so my question to you is, you know, there's been some talk about some guys that are borderline, you know, top 4 round picks, such as Chris Veach, guys like that on the roster. Is there anybody you can foresee us losing to the MLB draft that we maybe didn't expect to lose? And how does that affect, you know, the roster going forward in the next year?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, when you're a program like South Carolina and you recruit at a high level, you got to deal with this, right? You're going to have great players. Those great players have aspirations of playing in the majors, and they're going to get drafted. So, admittedly, Dalton, when it comes to like the freshman class, I cannot give you a full synopsis of here's who all we have recruited, or here's who we all have committed and signed, and here's what they're going to do. And, the latest commitment we just picked up, I think he's like the 4th ranked prospect in the state or something. Like, if it's a guy in the high school ranks that's getting drafted in the first couple of rounds, he's probably not coming to school. Now, every guy is different, right? I mean, Vanderbilt has dudes all the time that get drafted first round, second round. They come to school for whatever reason. So I'm just going to talk about the guys who are currently on our roster. I think Jack Mahoney is gone. I think Will Sanders is gone. I think depending on where Cade Austin goes, I mean, that's the big thing, Dalton, is when you're trying to project, it's all about where do they go. So I think the big 2 that are sort of the unknowns, I think Noah Hall is also gone. But I think the big 2 that are the unknowns and fans are kind of, man, what are they going to do? Could they come back? We already know Gavin Costas is back. That was announced on Saturday, which is huge, by the way. And the lineup all of a sudden, guys, is looking treacherous. I mean, it is looking like a true murderer's row better than this past year. But on the bump, Jack Mahoney, Will Sanders, I mean, I think both those guys, Dalton, I think you and I would agree, they're both going to hear their names called today. They're both going to hear their names called today. I would expect both to go. And we talked about this in the Big Cock Club hangout last night that, your junior year is your money year. And that's when you have leverage, right? That's when you have leverage to get the most money, get the best slot, if you will. I think both of those guys will take advantage of, especially Jack Mahoney, who had a great year. But I think both guys will take advantage of that. I think both will sign and will go to the majors, or will go to the professional baseball, if you will.
Well, I mean, could you see a potential situation? I know that, there are certain teams within Major League Baseball that have a reputation for, I guess, giving offers that are under the slot value of wherever they draft. So the Pittsburgh Pirates would be an example. The Oakland A's would be an example of this. Maybe, a team like the Cincinnati Reds in the lower rounds, if it's a guy that they're not really, too sure on. Do you think we could have a situation where, a Jack Mahoney, a Will Sanders go in the first 4 or 5 rounds, but the offer they get from whatever team drafts them isn't as high as they wanted? It isn't, up to the slot value of where they're drafted, even if it's, in the lower rounds, like the 3rd, 4th round.
Well, and I think
come back still.
Yeah, and I think NIL certainly has changed the game, right? It doesn't all come down to money. What is the NIL in baseball, though, I guess is really the question. Like, is there significant money on the baseball side of things? And I mean, I know they're doing a great job, Carolina Rise, Garnet Trust, Park Ave, all these different avenues. But like, it's like I talked about, Dalton, last night, that, I hear what you're saying. I mean, listen, let's call it for what it is. And I'm not calling you out for this. You're speaking from a biased lens. You want them to come back. I mean, you obviously want them to come back to school. So their thought process and this decision-making is completely different and something that you can't really, we can't really fathom because we're not in their shoes. So, I mean, these guys love the Gamecocks. They love being at South Carolina, but a guy like Jack Mahoney didn't grow up a Gamecock fan. A guy like Will Sanders didn't grow up a Gamecock fan. So, South Carolina has served into what I would expect they probably hoped it would. It's put them in the best possible position to go to the next level and be a big-time guy. Again, I think it comes down to they've got agents, they've got advisors that are telling them what's going on. Do you think you're going to come back and get drafted higher next year? Because, again, Dalton, if you come back for your senior year, you lose your leverage. You do. It doesn't matter how well you pitch. They don't have to take you in the 3rd round anymore. They don't have to take you in the 5th because you have to sign. You don't have a choice. So I think for both Mahoney and Sanders, listen, there will be conversations that could be had, and one of them could come back certainly, but I'll tell you this, man, obviously I play the game of baseball and I've been following the baseball draft for a while, and I know it's obviously changed, but I will tell you this, most of the time in the MLB draft, unless you're just like a surefire, no matter what happens, you're going to be like a first rounder, you're just that kind of dude. When you get an opportunity, man, you take it. You just never know, man. You just never know, because we saw Will Sanders go from the ace of this staff to literally not in the weekend rotation anymore. And I know that was because of injury, but we saw the craziness, the chaos. If I'm Will Sanders, even though I've got high hopes and high expectations for what I could do, I can't turn down that opportunity. I cannot take that risk of going back. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Noah Hall, man, I don't know what happens to Noah Hall. I'm glad he came back, and I'm sure he's glad too, but who knows? He had the injury, and I mean, who knows where he's picked now? So, it just, when it comes to the MLB draft, man, you got to take it when it's there. You know what I mean? You got to take it when it's there. And I think Mahoney and Sanders will both do that.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with you. It's mainly, I think, just the guys like Chris Beach. I've heard that he's eligible for the draft, but I think he's a sophomore right now, right? So that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Is he eligible?
Well, if you're a third year, so if you've been in college for 3 years, if you've been in college for 3 years, then you're eligible. You just have to be out of high school for 3 years. By the way, breaking news here, Dalton. Jack Mahoney was taken the 77th overall pick, 3rd round, by the Colorado Rockies. I fully expect Jack Mahoney to sign that contract. I love Jack Mahoney. Do I think he'd come back and be a 1st or 2nd rounder? I think he's a very good pitcher. I don't think so. I think you sign that contract immediately. That's a great contract. Like,
realistically, I mean, he got drafted higher than what I think many people expected. So,
Yep.
so I would agree with you. I think Jack Mahoney's going to sign, and go to the majors.
I mean, what would you have thought? What would people have thought if I told you that Jack Mahoney was going to get drafted higher than Will Sanders? You'd have probably thought we'd have went to Omaha because, well, damn, Will Sanders is our ace. How good did Jack Mahoney pitch? You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. In baseball, you just never know, man.
Right. I mean, that's mainly what I wanted to ask you, is just if you knew of any guys that could be taken that we didn't expect to be taken. And at this point, most of them are going to be full prospects. I think, there was a tweet last night somebody posted where I think a majority of the players taken in the first and second round last night were either players at SEC schools in college, or they were committed to SEC schools in high school. So, obviously a lot of teams in the SEC are going to lose commits because they get taken so high in the draft. So we'll see what happens with the Gamecocks this year. But I will say that I like what Mark Kingston has been doing in the portal and overall with the coaching staff and recruiting. And, I definitely changed my mind a little bit on my feelings about Mark Kingston. So I'm excited to see what this program can do going forward.
I'm excited as well, Dalton. Looking forward to it, man. I think Jack Mahoney is the first of many names we're going to hear today. And by the way, his slot value where he just got taken, $960,000. I know the NIL at South Carolina is really good. I don't think it's that good, my guy. Not for college baseball. It's not for college baseball. So, hey, congratulations to Jack Mahoney, though. Dalton, I appreciate you taking the time, man. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
All right. You have a good one.
Yeah, man. Take care. Great stuff from our friend Dalton. And, I think Jack Mahoney, no doubt, is gone. I think no doubt he should be gone. I'm happy for Jack Mahoney. No doubt. So, anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Always really, really good stuff from Dalton, who calls in. And you guys see our graphics, by the way. John Edward, if you're thinking about calling in, we are working on your graphic today. So there are some folks who call in that we still do not have graphics made, but a lot of them we do. Cocky Joe says, DK will be a better back than Marshawn. I will speak it into existence. Well, Cocky Joe, I hope it happens, man. And as I said, in my 5 reasons why I think the offense could be better, maybe this is the storybook season for Dakereon Joyner. It could be. I mean, Dakereon Joyner has shown, and how could you not pull for a guy like him? How could you not? Every time he's asked to do something, he does it. He does what's best for the team. We want it to happen. We so desperately want it. Does it mean it will? We'll have to wait and see. Lynn Turner says, I think Beamer low-key likes stirring up drama. It brings us attention. I think he's very strategic with it, Lynn, but, Beamer likes to keep Carolina in the headlines. So Jacob E says, definitely wouldn't make any sense for Mahoney to come back. Already had Tommy John. Just had a great season. He needs to go make that money while he can. Jacob, I 110% agree with you. That's something we didn't even factor in. So, So anyways, let's see. Austin Gregory, it's not surprising, but still impressive just how much coverage the SEC gets for its media days compared to other conferences. Yeah, like Mark Rogers was saying, man. It's a full-on event, dude. It is a full-on event, start to finish. It is a lot of fun. Let's see. Again, guys, in case you missed it, right after TDC, 3:10 on 107.5 The Game, I will join my friend Dimitri Ravanos as we talk all things Gamecocks football. My first ever appearance on 107.5 The Game. Really excited. Looking forward to it. I'll be honest with you guys, I wasn't sure it was going to happen. As we all know, 107.5 The Game is the flagship radio station of the University of South Carolina. And it was cool, too, because my guy Dimitri is having 2 guests on today. He's having 2 guests on, and he posted the graphic. One of them was yours truly. The other guest, Paul Feinbaum at 5:15. So, I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. Also, guys, jumping on with Mark Ryan today at 4:40 over at the Fan Upstate. Going to be a really fun day of content, guys. And, of course, we've already talked offense, really our part 1 preview. Tomorrow, guys, we'll talk things like 5 reasons why I think the Gamecocks offense could take a step back in 2023. We'll talk what will make a successful season for the Gamecocks offense in 2023. And I will give my prediction for South Carolina's offense this season. So, going to be a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. I know it's something you guys will enjoy as the content continues to bleed out the eyeballs. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we're going to keep the conversation rolling. I want to continue to hear from you, more of your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023. We're taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. And in case you missed it, so this morning we dropped our projected starting 11, right, for the upcoming 2023 season on offense, okay? Just my projected who I think is going to trot out there for the first snap against UNC. I mean, they're going to be the starter all year, just the starting 11 coming out of fall camp. And I listed Dakereon Joyner as RB1. Okay? So this guy replies to the graphic and says, if Joyner starts at running back after Furman, we are in deep trouble in SEC and against Clemson, like 6-6 or worse trouble. I like him as a slot or wildcat, but everyday back having never played there in his life is a stretch. Dakereon Joyner replied to that tweet and simply said, bet. Oh, buddy. Yeah, he replied to another one too. Somebody's commented and said, Joyner at RB is painful. Dakereon Joyner replied and said, bet to that one as well. So, I would tell Dakereon Joyner, hey, just take care of it on the field. You do it on the field, it'll take care of the rest. You do it on the field, it'll take care of the rest. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3372. Cocky Joe says, do we land Keelan Adams this week, or is he picking Virginia Tech? Cocky Joe, we'll talk to J.C. Sherbert more about that tomorrow. It does sound like, though, Va-Tech might snag him away. Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? He says, I think DK will definitely be a force at running back. Brian Dean says South Carolina beats Clemson. I don't think Garrett Riley will have the kinks worked out in year one. It very well may happen. Lynn Turner says Nashville's my son's favorite city. Have fun. I'm really looking forward to it, Lynn. If y'all have any suggestions, let me know. I'm looking forward to exploring Nashville. You know what I'm excited to do? You guys know I love stadiums. I'm going to go check out Vandy Stadium. I'm excited for that. Yeah, I'm excited for that. John Edward, why would you go to Virginia Tech? I have no idea, my friend. I don't know what they've sold him on, my guy. I don't know what they've sold him on. I have no clue. So, anyways, Dakereon Joyner's fired up. He's fired up going into the season. Should be a lot of fun. Going to be a lot of fun, guys, for sure. Going to be a lot of fun for sure. Let's see. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Let's see. This time next week, we will be in Nashville, Tennessee. We will be in Nashville, Tennessee for SEC meetings. I'm thrilled, guys. Can't wait. Can't wait to explore Nashville. Going to be a good time. Going to be a good time. No doubt. Going to be a really, really good time. So. Let's see. get back into your questions. John says, where's Becky been? She actually called in, John, last week. She actually called in last week. Austin Gregory says, or let's get to Austin Hicks first. Are you concerned with the second half of recruiting and how we finish? Austin, I'm not concerned yet. I'm not concerned yet. I mean, it is frustrating, though. It is frustrating, Austin, to, South Carolina, it seems, has lost a lot of momentum. Now, here's the thing, Austin. Dylan Stewart's still out there. Like, there are some very big pieces still out there. So until these guys commit to other schools, I mean, honestly, Austin, I'm not someone that loses sleep over recruiting. Like, I think I trust Shane Beamer and company to take care of that, to handle that, to get the ones that South Carolina needs. I'm not going to send myself into a tizzy, right? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to send myself into any sort of panic mode because of one player all of a sudden gets a crystal ball or the chatter around him going somewhere else. Like, I just, that's not me. I don't do that. So that's just how I operate. Let's see. Austin Gregory then followed up with, if we miss Stewart, Adams, and Hill, that will put me in full panic Ritter mode. Yeah, Daniel Hill would be a really big miss. And I agree with every guy we miss, Austin. It feels like Monterio Hardesty. It becomes more and more like, all right, man, what's going on? What's the deal? What's the deal? What's up? Anyways, guys, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Really excited for what's taking place, what's going on. Somebody messaged me and said, guess you heard have you heard the Tannehill Cox by 90 news? Yes, Steve Tannehill bought Breakers and Breakers Live. How about that? Changing their name to CB18. So Cox by 18. It looks like Steve Tannehill and Cox by 90 both went in on the venue. So congratulations to them both. I'm sure that, I don't think I think I went to Breakers one whole time my entire life. Like, I'm talking college, everything. So, 5 Points, a place that has been, all due respect, been dying over the last couple of years. It's good to see that. Steve Tannehill's done a great job of group therapy. Obviously, he was a business partner of ours a couple of years ago. And obviously what Cox by 90 is doing in the Gamecocks community, great to see them buy that venue. And I'm sure they will do great things with that venue, from Gamecock-related events to watch parties to literally just Gamecock. Everything you can think of, all Gamecocks all the time. Really happy for him. Happy for Jeff O'Hara and Steve Tannehill buying up Breakers and Breakers Live, and I'm sure they're going to do great things with it. Because like I said, 5 Points has, I haven't been in years, but 5 Points has fallen off significantly over the last couple of years. So great to see it. Great to see it. 5 Points certainly needs to be revamped, and I'm sure that they will do that. So really good stuff. Congratulations to them. And again, I'm sure they've got big things in the works, big plans with an IL and Garnet Trust and all that good stuff. So, and Steve Tannehill, obviously a Gamecocks legend. So really cool stuff of what they're doing. So anyways, guys, Gamecocks continue to do great things in the community. 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. Let's see. Austin Hicks says, JC said earlier, someone in the family is pushing for him hard to go to Alabama. Really? Wow. I mean, you never know. I mean, listen, Austin, recruiting giveth and recruiting taketh away. So there's no guarantee that South Carolina is, that things are going to, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how recruiting shakes out for the Gamecocks. So that's crazy, though. That's crazy. Good to see JC and those guys, by the way, back live on the air. Great stuff. Love to hear that. Love to hear it. They're back on. I think everybody for the most part is back into the normal routine now, right? Because last week with July 4th and all that, and the week prior, I was moving. So I think now we're finally like sort of past the whole holiday thing and back into, because a lot of people, it was like people either vacationed the second half of the previous week and then took off for July 4th and came back July 5th or 6th, or they took the entire last week off and vacationed and then came back, and this is their first day back. So I think everybody is back for the most part. So really, really good stuff. Glad you guys are all back. Hope you're all doing well, and thank you so much for making us a part of your week and a part of your Monday. So, anyways, Spencer Rattler, Tonka Hemingway, and Kai Kroger will all accompany Shane Beamer at SEC Media Days on Thursday. Really exciting stuff. Looking forward to it. And, looking forward to getting to Nashville. Austin Gregory says, I'm incredibly happy Tree recommitted to us. We're going to be good on O-line very soon. Should make for recruiting a running back even easier. Probably tough to convince guys to play behind our current offensive line. Yeah, it helps everything. I mean, Austin, it helps everything for sure. If your quarterback, running back, whoever, if they know that they're coming behind the O-line, that they're going to get killed, I mean, it's going to be tougher to get those players for sure. It's going to be tougher to get those players. So I love what they're doing, recruiting the line of scrimmage, both offensively and defensively. It's necessary. It's absolutely 110% necessary. We will see how soon Gamecock football feels the impact of that, but it's absolutely necessary the way they're recruiting up front. Panic Ritter says, do Mahoney, Hall, and Sanders come back? I think all three are going. Jack Mahoney, 110%. I think Will Sanders, could he come back? Sure. I don't expect him to come back. And then Noah Hall, I think after the injury this year, I think he's gone. Yeah, I think he's gone. Yep. Arthur Bear says, in regards to recruiting, what is a specific position in need for the 2024 class do you think is the utmost importance in this recruiting cycle? Arthur Bear, I would say this. I mean, outside of the obvious, which is continue to beef up on the line of scrimmage, Arthur Bear, I'd say the priority's got to be wide receiver. I think hitting some wide receivers. I think running back for sure. I think defensive backs is another one. Linebacker needs to continue to be an area of focus. So those would be my top ones, I'd say. Austin Gregory says Yard Barker has released their way too early 2024 NFL mock draft. They have Spencer Rattler 13th overall pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. Okay. He would have to have a great season. Straight up, a great season. Anyways, guys, which I hope it happens. I'd love to see it. I mean, I think Spencer Rattler being a first rounder would be incredible. I mean, I think Carolina, if Spencer Rattler has that good of a season, Carolina had a very good season. There's no question in my mind. So, John Everett says, I'm back to normal from a wedding weekend and a vacation in Georgia. Love that, John Everett. Glad you had a good time. Glad you had a lot of fun. Let's see. Hurston Waldrop to the Braves. Yeah, it's a big pickup. Fantastic pitcher. Fantastic pitcher at Florida. So I think he'll do really well in the professional game. Let's see. GA says those credentials are going in a shadow box and being displayed on the shelf after media days. Maybe GA. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe so. It'll be a cool thing, though. I mean, again, it like I said, I don't need the validation. I don't need anybody to tell us what we're doing here is great, but it's a cool thing, man. I'd be sitting here and lying to you if I said it wasn't. Like it's super dope. Yeah, I'm very, very excited. Very, very excited. Yes, Brendan, I figured out time zones. 8 Central is 9 o'clock Eastern. Yes, it's the other way around. I was messed up. So, I mean, guys, there's a good chance. I mean, there's a good chance we're going live 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. Like, I mean, we're just gonna get it in, man. We're gonna go live late. It is what it is. So hopefully, y'all don't mind a little nighttime TDC. And yes, Austin, I'm very aware the graphic on the break shows 12-2 and not 12-3. Austin, that graphic will go away soon, though, because I think we're going to start running ads for some of our business partners in that commercial break slot. So, all good. All good. Anyways, guys, okay, let's jump into one final break. On the other side, I want to continue to hear from you. We'll continue to take your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow.
Muscle Dougie, hello Dougie, Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, final 15 minutes or so here in the Daily Crow, taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. Will Sanders just now taken by the Chicago Cubs in the 4th round of the MLB draft. Again, guys, I think Will Sanders is gone. I don't see him coming back. I do think Will Sanders will sign that contract. You know, maybe he wasn't the first rounder that some projected, but again, I think because of leverage, I think because of, I think they're gone. So I would expect I would expect Will Sanders to sign. I would. Hayden Hughes says Matt Duffy, the Canisius transfer, just went 115th to the Red Sox. Wow, really? Okay, so that could affect what South Carolina has coming in. Damn, that'd be a big-time boost if he came to South Carolina. Maybe he thinks, okay, I go to an SEC school, I can boost that resume. That'd be interesting to see. Okay, so Will Sanders, 4th-round draft pick. 113th pick overall. Very good. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Dale says, Chris, when are you going to do the Vols breakdown with me? Whenever you like, BDD. Can you set it up? Let's go on your show. Arthur Bear says, if we can't block for Rattler, how will he have a great season is the question. My biggest question, Arthur Bear, is this. Arguably my biggest question for the Gamecocks offense this season. And we'll talk about this a lot more tomorrow when I lock in my prediction for the season. But I'm sure y'all can guess what it is, right? My biggest question mark is just simply, can South Carolina find enough balance with a running game to allow for Spencer Rattler to have the type of season that we know he's capable of? I mean, that's the biggest thing, guys, because let me pose this scenario to you. What happens when the Gamecocks get shut down in the running game? They have to throw, and Juice Wells gets double-teamed. Then what? That's the question. Then what? Is it Xavier Legette? Is it Trey Knox? Is it DeCarrion Joyner on the outside? Is it Nicholas Harbor? Is it Brown? Is it Lewis? Is it Joshua Simon? Like, what's your next best pitch? Like, what else do you have? And if you're one-dimensional and they can stop the run with 4 down linemen, they don't have to sell out on it, then what do you do? That's the question mark. Can you find enough balance? Because you can't throw it every play, guys. You cannot throw it every play. I mean, I think you're going to be a pass-heavy offense. I think 70-30 pass to throw. I really do. You are going to throw the football a lot this year. You are. You're going to throw the football a lot. But are you able to find balance in your offense to give Spencer Rattler his best opportunity to succeed? That's the question. That's the question. Guys, I'll just say this, by the way. This just kind of dawned upon me, and I feel like, it's something I debated speaking on, which I'm going to speak very vaguely. But, in the final 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so, I like to, and John, no, Robbie did not call yet, by the way. John Rice asked, did Robbie call? Because Robbie Davis is right here. I agree with that, Chris. And Robbie, if Robbie would like to call in, he can. We got 10 minutes to go, guys. I'd love to hear from you. Your questions, comments, calls. 843-790-3377. One thing I just wanted to say, though. And this is a lesson for everybody tuned in, everybody who hears this. This is a life lesson for you, especially if you are an entrepreneur, if you're in business of any sort, what have you. But it doesn't matter what you're in. This is just a life lesson, okay? Especially when it comes to social media etiquette, okay? No matter how you feel about someone, whether you like them, you dislike them, you despise them, you feel indifferent about them, what have you. Never forget, whether you're a business owner, content creator, or you're just average Joe out here, never forget that the way you act on social media matters. People see everything, okay? They see everything. Good, bad, and different. They see it all. And so I say this especially if you're in business, if you're in the corporate world where networking is important, but especially if you're in business. If you're trying to do things in business and you're doing business with someone else's business partner, it's probably not a good idea for you to have been going out of your way, not reciprocated, going out of your way to talk negatively about someone on social media. Just make sure you're watching what you say, how you act, because the networks are smaller than you think, and word will get back, and true, honest feedback will get to different people. That's all I'm saying. More on that in a second. Let's jump to the phone lines.
Robbie Davis, Zacky's Hall of Famer.
To accept.
Robbie, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just sitting here with my nephew watching a movie.
Very nice.
How
What
you doing?
What movie y'all watching?
A movie called Monster Trucks.
Monster Trucks. Okay. Very nice. Sounds like a riveting Monday.
Yeah, it just quit. It's raining a little bit outside. But anyways, what I just said in the chat right before I called, right? We need to figure out a way to run the football. If I was Dowell Loggins, okay, I would, or whoever it is that's going to be calling the offensive plays, I'm going to figure out a way to run that football because, like you said, if we're a pass heavy offense and teams know it, then we are in trouble.
I agree with you 110%. Yep, I agree with you 110%.
We have got to figure out a way to get it done one way or another. So yeah, we definitely need to figure out a way to run the ball. So that's all I got. You have a great rest of your day.
Have fun babysitting, Robbie. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
For sure.
All right, brother.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. All right, so what Austin Gregory could not account for is that Robbie Davis was babysitting today. So he goes way under on the 6 minutes and 10 seconds. Way under. Way under. Way under. Anyways, what I was saying before Robbie called, though, guys, is I would just say this. If you're someone who's doing business, you're trying to do business with different people, just know if you talk crap about someone openly, publicly on social media, and you're trying to do business with somebody else's business partner, that word and that experience is going to be shared with them. And it's more than likely going to hurt you in business. I'm going to leave it with that because I had that scenario happen to me. And I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say who, but Just so you know, if you're someone out there, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, whatever, and I wish no ill will on anyone. Hey, everybody can win. Everybody can win. I hope you win. I hope you do what you follow your passion, follow your dreams, do what you love to do well in business, make the world a better place. Small business makes the world a better place. But if you're doing business with one of my business partners and they ask me about this person, that person, whatever, and they've gone out of their way to try to cancel me on social media and said like horrific shit about me on social media, I'm going to share that experience with them. Just bottom line. So whether you like me, dislike me, what have you, just know that's happening. That is happening. So, and I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Anyways, 843-790-3377. Will Hall says an all-timer way under. Yeah. Marion R26, nephew duty. Robbie's the man. We got the whole family tuned in. Frank says little Robbies. No, I think they're just his cousins. They are not his kids. They're not his kids. My guy, John, by the way, I hope you've been well, dude. Hope you've been doing great up there in Charlotte. Really, really good stuff. Case you missed it, guys. Jack Mahoney goes 3rd round of the Rockies. Will Sanders, 4th round to the Cubs. Very busy day for us today, guys, content-wise. We've got 107.5 The Game at 3:15. We got Mark Ryan, the Fan Upstate, at 4:40. Very excited for it. Very, very excited. Just a couple of minutes to go. My guy John says, can't wait for football season. TDC, sorry, been MIA lately. Work has been insane. You're good, John. You're good. Listen, John, I know you're going to be here, my guy. I know you're here for the football chatter, my guy, John. Here we are. Austin Gregory, any pop-up interviews at SEC Media Days, any guests you'd love to connect with? Austin, I mean, there's nothing in particular that I have scheduled or anything like that. I mean, I know our guy Jake Crane and them will be there. Actually, Bryce, who I spoke to this morning, the crowded booth, he'll be there. My guy Billy Derrick, formerly of The Door Report, now with VandySports.com. Congratulations to Billy. He will be there. Chris Marler, Brad Crawford, so many great guys will be there. So, and women as well. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. Getting to rub shoulders with and meet these people that I've had on my show before or would like to have on. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. So, Austin, I don't have everything planned out, man. I'll be totally honest with you, especially not having a table. I mean, I'm going to be making content, but I'm really going to take in the event, to obviously provide coverage and content, what have you, but just to have a good time and enjoy it, man. It's going to be a nice balance of producing content at scale, crazy amounts of content, doing interviews, but also just enjoying it, man. Just enjoying the ride, enjoying the experience. And I'm really looking forward to it, man. I mean, it's going to be an absolute blast. So really, really excited. Jeff Gullidge said, played NCAA this weekend, ready for the simulation games. I hear you, Jeff. Hey, very soon, the 23rd, I think is what I said, right? The 23rd. Those will come up. The 23rd, man. But yeah, it's crazy to think, man, in less than a week, we'll be in Nashville for SEC Media Days, and 1 week from the day, yours truly will be sitting in the Grand Hyatt, whatever, in Nashville, taking it all in, enjoying it, and yeah, looking forward to it, man. So shout out to Chuck Dunlap and everybody in the SEC office for making sure TSUS got to Nashville, got SEC Media Days credentials, because we deserve it. We deserve it. And there's nothing that anybody can say otherwise now. We deserve it. I'm glad we're going to be there and looking forward to it. So anyways, guys, appreciate you all tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the bell icon as well to get notifications of when we go live. Also, be sure to check out our podcast. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts as well. Be sure to check them out. Check out the podcast. I say drops every day at 5 p.m. Eastern. Guys, we've hit 3 o'clock. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you all tuning in. The convo continues on 107.5 The Game and the Fan Upstate later today. We'll talk to you there. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your Monday, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.